Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku was a secret vigilante while attending UA? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. People are not created equal. This is the reality of society I learnt at the age of 4. And it was my first and last setback. It all started in Qingqing City, China. An illuminating baby was born. Since then, new powers have been discovered, and time passed without ever knowing why. Before we knew it, paranormal became the new normal. With 80% of the population having these so-called powers, it has become a superhuman society. With these powers, now called quirks, society has become a world of heroes and villains. Unfortunately, however, are a part of the so-called 20% of people known as quirkless. Sorry kid, it's not going to happen. Izuku, honey, I'm so sorry. I had a dream of becoming a hero. Too bad fate decided to pull one over on me. The day I turned 4, my life crumpled down and became hell. That was until the day that completely changed my life. For the better or for the worst, I guess I'll see. Izuku POV. Now you guys are third years, it's time to get serious about your futures. Now I could hand out some career aptitude tests, but why bother? The teacher exclaimed in front of the class, I know you all want to be heroes anyway. The whole class cheered and commenced using their quirks. Suddenly a low growl came from the desk of the student known as Katsuki Bakuga, otherwise known as Kaken. Hey teach, don't lump me in with these extras, he commented. They are all so weak, they will be lucky to become even a sidekick. The class erupted with fury. That's right Bakugu, you plan on attending UA, don't you? The teacher noted. That's right. You bunch of extras, I will be the best and most popular hero there will ever be, and it all starts with UA High. Bakuga bellowed across the room. Oh, and isn't Midoriya also planning on attending? The teacher snickered. I froze in my seat. The class burst out laughing. DKU. Bakugu screamed, slamming his hands on my desk and using his quirk. I flinched as he did that. You better not try for UA or you'll regret it, you got that? White Kaken. I squeaked out, loud enough for him to hear. Why did the teacher have to say that? After Kaken's lash out he returned to his seat and class then continued as normal. After school. That fight this morning with Mount Lady and Kamui Woods is all over the news. I better add to my hero notebook. I started to mumble at intense speeds, a habit I unfortunately cannot break. What the F is this? Bakuga walked in and snatched hero analysis notebook number 13 from me. I immediately started to panic. Hi Kaken. Or I mean Katsuki, I mean Bakugu, whichever one you prefer, I'm so sorry. Enough. Stop with the mumbling nerd, Bakugu complained. I'm sorry Kaken, I just didn't know what to say in order for you not to blow me up, I was panicking a lot. Is that what you think Deku? I'm hurt, wounded even. Bakugu's voice was laced with sarcasm. You could hear 2 of my classmates laughing behind him. Boom. Bakugu suddenly exploded my notebook and proceeded to throw it out the window. My notebook? No. My voice was screaming. Listen Bakugu began, you won't want a quirk right? Here's some advice. How about you take a fucking swan dive off the rooftop? Maybe then you might get a quirk in your next life. I was shocked. I stopped moving for a minute. When I came to, Bakugu had already left. Stupid Kaken, I trailed on, what if I had actually taken his advice and jumped? What would he do then? I walked up to the koi pond. Silly fishes, my notebook isn't fish food. Once I had my notebook I started to walk home. My notebook had a noticeable burn on the front. I continued to walk under an underpass. You will be a perfect meat suit. An unfamiliar voice echoed out from behind. I turned around only to find it was too late. I remember the feeling of suffocating, slowly losing consciousness as time passed, the feeling of drowning, the feeling of knowing you are about to die. Because I am here, was the last thing I heard before I lost consciousness. The next thing I remember was waking up. How you asked? Simple, I was woken up to being slapped. In the face. That was when I met All Might. My brain.exe started the overload with different emotions. All am might. Am I dreaming? Am I dead? Can you please sign my notebook? Wait, you already did. I burst out. I think I even started crying with joy. All right, you are awake, young man. Seeing as though you are all right, I am going to take my leave. Bye. He waved before taking off. Me being stupid took a hold of his leg. Ah. I was holding on for dear life. Young man, look, I know you are a fan, but can you please let go? The number one hero responded. I can't let go now, Look, I just want to ask a question. We then proceeded to land. We were on an extremely tall building near the center of the city. Look, young man, I need to cough. All Might coughed out some blood before a biff poof of smoke engulfed the rooftop. When the smoke cleared away, a small, skeleton-looking man was left in All Might's place. Who are you? I screamed. I'm All Might, the figure responded quickly. Imposter. I was freaking out internally and externally. This surely cannot be All Might. I mean, All Might is the symbol of peace. Small Might then lifted up his shirt and I was shocked. 5 years ago I was given this injury. Now I don't even have a stomach, All Might chuckled awkwardly. Now, young man, now you know this secret, I must beg of you not to tell anyone. All Might was on his hands and knees. My brain was overloading. Who could have done this? Was it maybe Toxic Chainsaw? But then a thought popped into my head. Don't worry, All Might, I won't tell anyone. I just have one question before you go. I was going to ask him the fated question. Do you think I can become a hero without a quirk? An awkward silence broke between the two. Young man, it's all right to dream. Just make sure that dream is realistic. Maybe become a nurse or a police officer. It is a much safer option. Okay, thanks, All Might. I'll let you go now. Don't worry about me spilling your secret. It's not like anyone will believe me anyway. Izuku whispered in a low, hushed tone. Goodbye, young man, All Might said as he flew off, leaving Izuku left on the rooftop. Jump off the rooftop and maybe, just maybe, you might be lucky enough to have a quirk in your next life. Izuku, I am so sorry. Just make sure your dream is realistic. The voices echoed in his head, telling him to just give up. His dream was a fool's errand. Maybe he should follow Kaken's advice. Everyone would be much happier without him. Izuku took a step towards the edge. Another step. Useless. Another step. Worthless. Another step. Stupid Deku. A final step. He was now on the edge. Just one more step and it'll all be over. Just one. Boom. A loud explosion came from distance. The rail of smoke rising into the endless sky. Izuku snaps out of his deadly trance. He immediately recognizes the explosions. He then remembers that All Might didn't have the bottle with the sludge villain with him when they landed on the roof. Kaken. Izuku sprints to the scene. An overbearing crowd, just watching as the scene unfolds, their gazes too focused to notice a small, quirkless boy like him weaving in and out amongst them. Once the scene is in view, he realizes. It's all my fault. He looks around, taking in information from every direction. Where are the heroes? He spies a few near the scene, just watching, not doing anything to help, their faces, gloomy, disappointed, not in themselves but in the situation. Boom. Another deafening explosion rings out. They are getting weaker, that means. Kaken. Without even thinking, his legs started to move all on their own. He was a green blur. No one noticed until. Kaken. Izuku screamed out at the top of his lungs. The eyes, that's his weakness. Izuku launched his bag at the villain's eyes, shocking the villain, just enough for Bakugo to get free. Unfortunately, the sludge villain now had his eyes on him. Well, it looks like one of us will be alive to see the light of Tom. Never fear. For I am here. And all too familiar voices boomed out. Detroit smash. A large gust of wind flowed through the city, knocking out the villain in its wrath. A drop of rain flowed down Izuku's face. He looks up, only to find that one drop became many. A punch so powerful, it can change the heavens and earth itself. The ringing of sirens were heard in the background. The murmuring of onlooking bypassers, the sound of HFFs jingling as they were placed on the unconscious villain, the shouting of heroes telling him that he was too reckless and he should have left it to the heroes. The same heroes that just stood there whilst a boy almost suffocated to death, right quirk my butt? If it was that easy for a quirkless boy like me to save Bakugo, then for a pro, it should be like child's play. After the heroes were done with their rambling, I left for home. Mum would be worried sick by now. Bing! A notification startled Izuku. News. Sudden rain expected. Our cats getting smarter. Studies showed what is a vigilante and how do they affect the night of our beloved cities? Nothing too much. I was about to scroll when. What is a vigilante and how do they affect the night and how do they affect the night of our beloved cities? A vigilante? No one ever said a quirkless person couldn't ever become one of those. Vigilante. A person who uses their quirk to voluntarily carries out duties usually done by pro-heroes without paying attention to the law. I can't break the law if I don't have a quirk, can I? Perfect. Thump, thump, thump. Kakin. You shitty nerd, don't think I needed your help because I didn't, you got that. Bakugo's voice echoed through the peaceful street. Once he was done his crappy speech of saying how he was the best, blah blah blah, he left. Left as quick as he arrived, thank God. Izuku was about to continue heading home when. Wait, young man. A voice echoed out for the third time in one day. It's Midoriya. He deadpanned. Ah yes, young Midoriya, I saw your brave actions, and I would like to offer you my quirk because you too can become a hero. Do you accept? I started to cry. Tears ushered out like geysers. Why yes. I struggled to make words come out my mouth. Great. All Might began. Meet me at Dagoba Beach, tomorrow at sunrise, bring clothes to train in. Shy, I stuttered out before he left. What a hella of a day. But wait, how am I supposed to become a vigilante? The early morning sun was illuminating the city with its amber glow. The city was quiet, with only the sounds of few cars driving to work. This particular morning, however, was the start to the training of the future hero known as Izuku Midoriya. All Might had suggested in cleaning up the beach known as Dagoba Beach in order to train whilst doing the community service. Dagoba Beach had unfortunately accumulated waste from illegal dumping in the sea. The once beautiful beach is now one whole, steaming pile of trash. Izuku was quick to agree to this proposal as All Might was correct. It would be a great place to train and would do the community a favor, but also, unbeknown to All Might, was an excellent place to gather material to build a costume and weapons. Luckily for Izuku, All Might wasn't there most of the time due to having other things come up. He was a hero after all, the number one at that. It meant Izuku could take some stuff to make his equipment without being suspicious. A month went by and Izuku had completed the basics of his costume. Izuku hair sprays his hair black and wears red contacts when he starts patrolling. He also has his freckles covered. It took him a lot of work to get what he needed. He sold a lot of parts from the beach for money to get the right clothes. He had anonymously bought them off the black market, making sure he left no trace leading it to him. He knew it couldn't be like the hero costume his mum had made, so he went for a different aesthetic. He also took a recent interest to support equipment. It's not like he had a quirk to use to defend himself. That would be illegal anyways. At first he just fiddled around, but then he started to get serious. He made many smoke bombs, glitter bombs for pranking, a customized knife that can retract and be hidden easily, pepper spray, and a bow staff. Izuku also made sure to have a first aid kit with him as well as a notebook and a pen. His training with All Might was doing well, although he started to take online lessons to actually learn how to fight, dance, and to properly apply medical treatment. He created a unique style that only he could use, one that included the use of a bow staff, but can work the same without, applying what he learned from both his dancing and fighting lessons. Izuku has always been a quick learner. He had to be in order to survive. Fortunately, his mother didn't question him when he began his rigorous training regimen because she knew he was trying to get into UA, despite being quirkless. She was happy for him for finding something to do. Izuku decided it'd be best to wait out a little before going on his first patrol. During this month of preparing, he researched countless heroes and villains in areas. He may or may not have accessed the police database by guessing the password. He knew that if he really wanted to save people, he would do it at night, where real crime happens. Yes, real crime, not the showy hero versus villains fights like in daytime, but like stopping break-ins, RP, abuse cases and muggings. The crime's limelight heroes tend to look over because they don't get as much attention or credit. At night is when the underground heroes are about, to be specific, Eraserhead, Izuku's greatest inspiration of the night. Eraser fought quirkless, yet he took down countless villains. Eraser was the best. Almost as great as All Might, almost. That is why Izuku decided that he should patrol near Eraser's area. It would be a dream to meet him, even more of a dream to fight alongside him. This is where his adventure begins. He will become a vigilante. The city of Mizudafu never slept. Neon lights bathed the streets in a harsh glow, flickering like the heartbeat of the city. From the shadows of alleyways and hidden rooftops, figures lurked, some of them heroes, some of them villains. But there was one more who wandered in between. A vigilante, unnoticed and invisible in the grand scheme of things. Well, to be exact, a soon-to-be vigilante. It was Izuku's first patrol. What could go wrong? Izuku POV. I can't believe it. Tonight was my first patrol. Unfortunately, I am new to this gig. I don't know how it works. Do I just roof hop until I hear someone scream? Yeah, maybe I'll just do that. I roof hopped for a little bit. I had to practice that a lot during my month of preparation. My butt still aches from the amount of times I fell, until eventually I heard a muffled scream. The sound came from the alleyway over. I had a look from above. A woman who I assumed to be around in her mid-30s or so was being attacked in a dark alley by a suspicious-looking man with a smirk on his face. I knew exactly what he planned to do. She screamed only for it to be muffled as the man covered her mouth. He began to unbutton her shirt. I was disgusted. How could he do such a horrid act? I leapt from my viewing point on the roof and slid down the drainpipe before hopping off right next to them. Good evening, sir. May I ask you to step away from this poor lady? My voice reeked of malice. This woman did not deserve what he was about to do. You have no business here. Now leave or I'm gonna have to make you. The man cracked his knuckles. Some multicolored flames trickled out from his fist. Must have a fire quirk. Funny, huh? I was about to say the same thing. Now leave peacefully or we're going to have to do this the hard way. I too cracked my knuckles to show I was serious. Ha! You think a little runt like you could take me on? I'd like to see you try. This is your last warning, midget, he antagonized. I'm not short. The woman was slowly backing away for safety. The man swung a punch and I did what a normal person do, I dodge it. Without giving him time to stabilize, I lunged at him. I used one of my smoke bombs so he couldn't see. I quickly ran in the direction I could see the only visible light. Fire. What an idiot. I used my bow staff to swiftly and quickly knock him out. I hit him in the head. My staff may or may not be made of a hard but very light, fortunately, metal. As a precaution, I grabbed my zip ties out my pocket. I made sure he couldn't escape before telling the woman to call the police before handing her a note to give to the police. I left as soon as I heard the sirens nearby. I had a feeling for some reason I was being watched. I was now a good distance away from the police, but I could not shake the feeling. Suddenly my instincts told me to dodge. I quickly jumped to the side and looked behind me. A gray scarf-like weapon had just missed catching me. I knew that scarf. It was the Eraser hero, Eraserhead. It was you who saved that woman, wasn't it? He spoke in gruff tone. Who are you? I was panicking on the spot. To be exact, my inner fanboy was. It was the Eraserhead. Well, it's time to let my skills shine, more like sparkles, sparkle, sparkles. I'm the Easter Bunny, obviously, I said with sarcasm laced in my words. I needed to hide my excitement. I'm not paid enough to deal with this sheet. Look, just tell me who you are, or even better, come with me to the police station. Let's just make this quick. He was so done with this sheet that I chuckled. Eraser sounds like he needs some entertainment. Am I a hero or am I a villain? Neither, for I am the neighborhood's new friendly vigilante that I'm afraid you won't be me catching today, Eraserhead. Bye. I saluted before throwing a glitter bomb, the pink kind, before making my quick exit. The adrenaline was pumping through me. That was a lot of fun. Let's dance again soon, Eraser. Eraserhead POV. I just want to go home already. My patrol was almost done for the night, but of course something came up. I'm afraid you won't be me catching today, Eraserhead. Bye. That was the last thing the new, mysterious vigilante said before hell in the form of a bomb exploded. It was a nightmare. It was glitter. It was sparkly, pink glitter. I want to go home right away, but I know I can't. I have a job to do. Tsukauchi isn't going to let me hear the end of it for a while. I headed back to the police station. Tsukauchi was already waiting for me. I could hear him snickering. It's not funny, Tsukauchi. I grumbled. It was annoying more than anything, ridiculous as well. Right, sorry, Aizawa. Anyway, we were given a note from the woman who was the victim. She said it was from the person who saved her. Tsukauchi replied. It's a new vigilante. I have a feeling they are going to be a real problem child, alright. Thanks to them, I have to wash all this glitter off. Are you going to pass me the note? I really was not in the mood. I have a feeling I will run into that vigilante again. Make sure to read through it carefully. The note said, Hey, it's the neighborhood's new, friendly vigilante. I happened to be on my first ever patrol, I guess it's my debut, when I found this woman being attacked. The man was sexually assaulting her and was about to RP her if I hadn't stepped in. You're welcome. The man should be knocked out for a while, and no, I did not use my quirk. The man also attacked first, meaning I have done nothing wrong. Make sure you treat the woman with care, it still could have been traumatic for her. Take care and good luck on trying to catch me. R0R. Izuku's POV. Tonight felt different. I wasn't sure why, but I had an overwhelming urge to head out earlier than usual. Maybe it was because of the feeling that had been building inside me ever since my first patrol with Eraserhead. I still couldn't believe that had actually happened. The excitement hadn't worn off yet, and my heart beat faster every time I thought about it. And now, out on my own, I couldn't help but feel more like I was starting to belong in this world. But I wasn't just here for the rush of it. I had a job to do. The city needed protection, and I had to make sure I kept getting stronger, faster. I'd already rounded up 5 criminals tonight. It was getting easier. My instincts were improving, and I was starting to catch criminals faster. I felt proud of myself, but I couldn't afford to get complacent. After all, there was always the possibility that something worse could be lurking around the corner. I was just beginning to think I should head home when I heard it. A faint cry. It was distant but distinct, enough to make my stomach turn. I froze. There was something about the sound that felt too familiar, like it hit too close to home. It reminded me of those times when I couldn't protect others, couldn't do anything to stop the pain, the hurt. Not again. I couldn't ignore it. I followed the sound, my heart racing as I moved through the shadows of the alleyways. And there, on the ground, was a boy probably around my age lying motionless. His hair looked like it was defying gravity, but it was the least of his problems. His body was limp, bruised, and battered, like he had given up fighting back. My chest tightened. I could feel my hands shaking. This was wrong. No one should be left like this. I stepped forward, forcing myself to keep calm. I had to do something. Hey, what's going on here? Did someone forget to invite me to the party? I tried to sound confident, like a hero should. How about you leave now and we'll call it a night? Me and the star of the show can have some one-on-one time. Sound good? The larger of the two bullies, the one with a smug grin on his face, turned toward me. His voice was rough and condescending. Who the hell do you think you are, kid? This guy's a villain. He deserves every bit of this. This doesn't concern you. I clenched my fists. I could feel the heat rising in my chest, frustration and anger mixing together. Oh really? You think you've got the right to hurt him like this? A villain? Who says he is one? No one deserves to be beaten down, not like this. The smaller one, wearing glasses and looking nervous, took a step back, his voice shaky. Boss, didn't you hear the rumors? There's a new vigilante out here. They say he's pretty dangerous. I could tell the leader wasn't convinced, but he didn't seem to care either. He cracked his knuckles. Rumors don't scare me. Let's show this kid why he should have stayed home. I wasn't backing down. I counted to myself, trying to steady my nerves. I could do this. I had to do this. Time's up. I rushed forward, throwing a quick punch to the leader's face. It landed cleanly, and the impact sent him stumbling back, completely knocked out. He collapsed to the ground with a thud, and for a second, there was silence. The other two villains froze, their faces going pale as they stared at their fallen boss. Without another word, they grabbed him and ran off, dragging him like a rag doll behind them. Cowards. But I couldn't focus on them. Not now. I needed to make sure the boy was okay. I knelt down next to him, my heart pounding in my chest. Hey, are you all right? Do you need medical attention? What's your name? I asked, my voice rushing out before I could stop myself. I felt like I was talking too fast, my mouth on fire with the need to help. The boy stirred slightly, his voice weak. Shinso. Hitoshi Shinso. He paused, his voice dropping, like he was ashamed to even be speaking. Thanks. Yes. But you're wasting your time. Wasting my time? I couldn't hold back the frustration. You think helping you is a waste? Look at you. You need help. No one deserves to be treated like this. Shinso seemed to try to sit up, but winced from the pain. He looked at me, eyes full of resignation. No, you shouldn't waste your time on me. My quirk. He trailed off, as if the words were too painful to say. I could feel a knot forming in my stomach. I knew exactly where this was going. But I wasn't about to let him give up. Let me get this straight, I said, my voice firm. No one deserves to be bullied, no one deserves to be hurt just because of their quirk. There's no such thing as a villainous quirk. People are worth the same, quirk or not. Shinso blinked at me in disbelief, his expression a mixture of surprise and something deeper, something I couldn't quite place. For a moment, he didn't say anything. His eyes seemed to soften and then, the tears started to fall. I felt a pang in my chest. My words had somehow reached him. Thank you, he whispered, his voice shaking. No one's ever said that to me before. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of his gratitude. It felt like I was on the verge of saying something else, but my words caught in my throat. It was hard, seeing someone so broken, someone so young, feel like they had no worth. I wanted to say more, but I couldn't find the right words. Instead, I stood up, pushing back the overwhelming emotions. I need to go now. Stay safe, all right? But just as I turned to leave, I heard him call out. His voice was desperate, like he was afraid to be alone again. Wait, will I ever see you again? Please, don't leave me like this. My heart twisted in my chest. I didn't want to leave him, but I couldn't let myself get too close. I didn't want to put him in danger because of me. But I couldn't just walk away. Not now. I turned back to him, my thoughts racing. Here, kid, I said, pulling out a small slip of paper. I scribbled my number down quickly and handed it to him. If anyone ever bullies you again, or if you just need help, call me. I'll be there. I promise. It felt strange calling him a kid. He was probably a little older than me, yet I couldn't risk giving him my real identity. Call me anytime, I added, trying to keep my voice steady. Shinso looked down at the number for a moment, then back up at me, his face full of gratitude. I will. For everything. I nodded, forcing a smile, before turning and walking away. My heart was heavy, but there was something else too, something hopeful. He wasn't alone anymore. And I wasn't going to let anyone make him feel like he was. But as I walked into the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the last time I'd see Shinso. I'd make sure of it. And maybe, just maybe, I'd look into his situation, make sure he was safe. Everyone deserved a safe place to call home. For now, though, all I could do was keep moving forward, knowing that I was doing the right thing, one step at a time. Third POV. It had been a few months since Izuku had begun his vigilante work, and since meeting Eraserhead and Shinso, though now that he thought about it, they did look strangely similar. Training with All Might had been. Well, it was a work in progress. At least Izuku had been training on his own, or else he'd still be a mess in terms of combat. He often felt like a gorilla in human form, no offense to gorillas, a complete idiot when it came to actual fighting. But today was just another training day at the beach. Or so he thought. Izuku's progress cleaning the beach was coming along well. He'd managed to clear about a third of the shore, but his vigilante patrols kept interrupting his work. The north side of the beach was relatively quiet, with only a few joggers scattered here and there. He didn't mind the solitude, it was peaceful. Izuku took a deep breath, the scent of salt water filling his lungs. A calm day. Just what I needed. He glanced around. The beach had always been his escape, a place where he could think, focus, and simply be away from the chaos of everything else. After all, things had been pretty intense lately. His dual life as a vigilante and UA hopeful was starting to feel like a balancing act that could come crashing down at any moment. It was hard to stay on top of everything: his training, his homework, his patrols, the constant pressure to prove himself. I just need to make progress, he thought. Even if it's small. Progress. That peace was suddenly shattered by a frantic voice shouting over the waves. Somebody help. My poor baby. Someone save my baby. A baby? In the water. Izuku's heart skipped a beat. He spotted the woman frantically pointing toward the ocean. Please, you save my baby, she begged. Izuku didn't waste a moment. His mind raced as he sprinted toward the water. The ocean was cold, freezing even, but there was no time to hesitate. He barely noticed how the sand clung to his shoes as he sprinted, adrenaline pushing him forward. His thoughts were a blur. What if I'm too late? What if I mess this up? Once he reached the shore again, the woman dashed toward him, her face pale with worry. Is my poor baby all right? The baby. He quickly scanned the water, trying to make sense of the situation. No, my baby. It's dead, she wailed, her voice cracking with distress. Dead? Izuku froze in confusion. Was it a drowning situation? His heart raced. Oh well, I guess I should have made baby 38 waterproof. Izuku blinked. Baby 38? Waterproof? What's going on? The woman held up a small metal object that looked like what? A drone? She smiled at him. Thank you for saving my baby. This is baby number 38. Izuku facepalmed. You're welcome, I guess. She beamed at him. What's your name? I'm Mei Hatsume, the future founder of Hatsume Industries. I am Izuku Midoriya. Nice to meet you. Without skipping a beat, Mei grabbed his arm. Nice to meet you. Wanna get some ramen? And hey, wanna help me with my babies? Let's go. Izuku's brain briefly short-circuited. Wait, I am still soaking wet. I need to dry off first. Mei, undeterred, handed him what looked like another gadget. Here, try baby 29, it'll dry you off. Izuku flipped the switch. Boom. The drone exploded, sending a gust of air that somehow left him completely dry. Well, I'm dry now at least, Izuku mumbled to himself, rubbing his head, still trying to process the strange turn of events. Okay, no need to freak out. Just stay calm. A quirkless vigilante who can't control his body movements meets a crazy inventor who's got drones that explode for no reason. Everything's fine. Mei wasn't done. Come on, we're losing daylight. Let's go. Izuku glanced at his watch. 11 o'clock. Not even noon yet. It felt like his entire day had already been hijacked by Mei's whirlwind of strange inventions and chaotic energy. But, despite his better judgment, he followed her as she dragged him toward what he could only assume was the next stage of this bizarre day. Time skip, thanks to baby 29's explosion. It was nearing the end of the day when Mei, in her usual frenzied excitement, asked, So, what's your quirk? I know you're trying for UA, right? If you tell me, I can make some babies specifically for you. Izuku blinked, taken aback by her directness. Oh well, I don't actually have a quirk. I mean, I might be a late bloomer, a really late bloomer. Mei's face lit up, and her voice was full of enthusiasm. Oh, you're quirkless? That's so cool. It makes my job way easier. Quirks have special requirements that sometimes get in the way, you know? Izuku was stunned. No one had ever responded like that before. It felt oddly freeing. He had expected pity, or worse, a patronizing look. But Mei just seemed interested, almost excited. She didn't look at him like he was some sort of failure. No, she saw the potential in him. The way she had practically thrown herself into helping him without hesitation, something about that made Izuku feel lighter. He hadn't realized how much he longed for someone to see him as more than just the kid who couldn't use a quirk. "Oh, thanks," he stammered, smiling weakly. What about you? Your quirk, it's something with your eyes, right?" Mei nodded proudly. "You're smart. My quirk is called Zoom. It lets me focus my vision really, really well. I can see things from far away, no problem." She handed him a slip of paper with her number on it. "Here, have my phone number. Though, I'm not sure how often I'll respond. I've got a ton of babies to take care of. Gotta run, though, see ya." And with that, she was off, leaving Izuku standing there, still processing the day's events. The wind carried her voice as she walked away. "Oh, and don't forget about the ramen." He looked at the number in his hand. "What just happened?" he muttered, still in a daze, his thoughts still spinning. "Ramen? Babies? Explosions? What is my life?" Izuku sighed, rubbing his face in exasperation. "Oh, that was something." He glanced around, taking in the quiet beach again. The waves gently rolled in and out, and the gulls cawed overhead. The chaotic rush of the last few hours seemed so out of place here, like a storm that passed quickly, leaving only calm behind. His thoughts kept drifting back to Mei, to how she didn't look at him like he was a lost cause. In fact, she treated him like he was someone capable of doing something. And maybe that was the thing he had been missing. Maybe he didn't need to change everything about himself to be special. Maybe it was okay to be different. Alright, he thought to himself, feeling a spark of determination. "I don't know what I'm doing half the time, but that's okay. I'll figure it out. But keep moving forward." "Alright," he said aloud, shaking off the lingering confusion. "Back to training. Focus, Izuku. Focus." And just like that, he began to walk back toward the beach. Even though his day had veered off track, something about it felt different. The mix of awkwardness, self-doubt, and strange encounters with Mei had left him with a sense of something hope, maybe. Maybe he wasn't as lost as he thought. "Well," he muttered, finally grinning, "this definitely wasn't a normal day." With a renewed sense of determination, he got back to work, his steps a little lighter, his mind a little clearer. It was a fresh new day. The sun was just beginning to rise, and the town was slowly waking up. It had been months since Izuku started training with All Might, and now, the day had finally arrived. Today was the entrance exam for U.S.J. All Might, to be blunt, was impressed. He had only expected Midoriya to clean up his designated area, but the kid had gone above and beyond. He had cleaned the entire beach. It was clear now, he had chosen the right successor. Although All Might wasn't always present during Izuku's training, he had been keeping an eye on him. He could tell that Izuku was a hard worker, determined, and deeply committed to his dream. Izuku's POV. "Boy, cleaning is a pain. I can't believe All Might didn't even give me any protective gear. Not even gloves. What if I cut myself on a rusty piece of metal? At least I'll finally get my quirk today. It's crazy. I've been working so hard for this moment, but honestly, I'm more excited than I thought I'd be. After all, today is the entrance exam. I wonder how I should act once I get to UA. Should I use my old cover personality? The stuttering, awkward, nerdy fanboy who's always idolizing heroes? The one who nobody expects much from? That might be fun, I guess. Young Midoriya, now that you've completed your training, I will give you my quirk," All Might announced, breaking through his thoughts. "Finally. About time, right? Here, eat this," All Might said, holding out a strand of his hair. Izuku blinked. "Wait, seriously? You want me to eat your hair? Is that sanitary?" All Might awkwardly chuckled. "Hee, in order to pass on my quirk, you need to digest a bit of my DNA. It has to be this way or through blood, which I know you wouldn't want." Izuku grimaced. "Well, blood does sound better. At least I'd know it's not clean. It tasted horrible. Disgusting. There was no way he was doing that again." "Okay, so now what?" Izuku asked, hoping for some guidance. All Might looked at him, eyes gleaming with energy. "You must go now, Midoriya. The exam starts soon. If you're stuck, just clench your butt cheeks and yell, Smash. Good luck. Izuku stared blankly at him as he left. Wait, what? Time skip brought to you by Izuku contemplating his life choices. Izuku arrived at the towering gates of U.S.J, his nerves bubbling up inside him. It should have been a huge moment. He was about to step into the legendary school for heroes. But instead, he felt nothing. Was he supposed to feel all? Because honestly, it was just a school. A really big one. But before he could dwell on his thoughts, he tripped. What any idiotic move he pulled, great job. In that split second, he closed his eyes, bracing himself for the inevitable fall. Only he never hit the ground. Confused, he opened his eyes and found himself floating. A girl with short, brown hair, round cheeks, and a permanent blush was standing beside him, holding him in place with her quirk. "Oh, you're probably wondering why you're floating," she said with a smile. "It's my quirk. Sorry for stopping you, but it's considered bad luck to trip on the way in." Izuku blinked, stunned, before muttering, thanks." She released her quirk, and they chatted for a moment before parting ways. She seemed nice. Izuku couldn't help but feel a bit calmer after their brief interaction. The written portion of the exam was easy for Izuku, though he purposefully made a few mistakes. Old habits died hard. It wasn't about being perfect, after all. He didn't want to draw too much attention to himself. Plus, he didn't want to seem too smart. There was a guy at the exam who was tall and had glasses. He sure had to stick up his butt. Boy, was he a pain. But now, it was the physical portion. That's where the real challenge awaited. Izuku stood at the starting line, heart racing as he watched other students prepare for the physical exam. His mind was on one thing, his quirk. It still hadn't appeared, and time was running out. He could feel the weight of everyone's expectations on him. He couldn't afford to fail. 5 minutes remaining. His stomach dropped. All the bots were probably already destroyed by the other students, leaving him with little hope of making a decent impression. And then, the announcement blared over the intercom. Now releasing the 0-pointer. Izuku froze as the massive robot emerged from the distance, its enormous frame casting a shadow over the entire arena. The other students scattered, running away from it. But then he saw her. The girl he had met earlier, the one who had helped him, was trapped right in the 0-pointer's path. Damn it. Without thinking, Izuku sprinted toward the chaos, ignoring the danger. He spotted a large pipe nearby and, with a quick mental calculation, used it as leverage to free her. "Come on, we need to move," Izuku shouted, pulling her away from the robot's path. But as they ran, the ground suddenly shook, and Izuku felt his body growing heavy. Looking up, he saw the 0-pointer looming over him. The last thing he remembered before everything went dark was the looming shadow of the robot, and the sudden surge of power that exploded in his chest. Izuku's POV. The world spun as I felt energy surge through my veins. It was like I had been struck by lightning. My body felt like it was on fire, and then I was flying through the air. It was time. I yelled, my voice a mix of panic and excitement. Smash! The world went dark again, this time not from exhaustion, but from the sheer force of the punch. My legs, well, to be blunt about it, they were definitely not in good shape. They honestly didn't even look like legs anymore. But I wasn't going to let that stop me. I could feel my arm starting to snap as I punched the 0-pointer. I couldn't tell if it was the quirk or the robot doing that bit. Either way, it doesn't matter. I needed to save her. And just when I thought I'd crash to the ground in agony, I felt it. A sudden slap across my face. The girl. She was saving me again. Just relax. You'll be fine, she said, her voice calm. With a flick of her hand, I found myself gently floating toward the ground. Release, she called, and I was set down softly, still reeling from the impact. She had saved me. Twice. Although the first time was from embarrassment. Thanks. I guess, I mumbled, rubbing my sore cheek. That slap stung a bit. Just as the exam concluded, the voice over the intercom announced, anyone injured, please report to Recovery Girl. Well, I'd love to, but as you could clearly see, I can't. I guess she'll have to come to me. The old woman known as Recovery Girl gently kissed my forehead, and instantly, the pain disappeared. But the exhaustion remained. You did well, dear. But take it easy. You're going to be tired for a while. As she healed me, I stumbled away from the exam grounds, heart heavy with the realization that I hadn't earned a single point. SCS to SCK, I guess. But hey, maybe Lady Luck would be kind to me this time. After all, I wasn't done yet. Nap time, then patrol. I can't afford to rest. I can't let breaking all the bones in my legs and in one arm before getting healed but now am feeling sleep-deprived stop me. It would look suspicious if I were to take the night off, especially after such an event. I got people to save. Izuku Midoriya had always dreamed of being a hero, but the road to getting there was filled with uncertainty. The suspense of the UA exam letter almost drove him insane, torn between the possibility of being accepted to UA and the risks of being discovered as something more than an average student. If he made it in, the spotlight would be on him, but if he didn't, he could remain hidden, training in secret as his own vigilante. It was a delicate balance of risks and rewards. When the letter arrived, Izuku didn't waste a second. The anticipation was overwhelming, and even though he was sure he'd failed, he tore it open with reckless abandon. And then, out came the disc, triggering a hologram of none other than the loud, eccentric hero, Present Mike. I am here. As a hologram, he shouted, his booming voice nearly causing Izuku to jump out of his skin. Why, may you ask? Not to take down villains, but you see, next year I will be a teacher at UA. The hologram blared with enthusiasm. Young Midoriya, you passed the written exam with 87%, but on the physical exam, you had no villain points. Izuku groaned internally. Of course, he knew that already. His lack of villain points had always been his weakness. But then Present Mike's voice cut through his thoughts. Fortunately, there was a hidden point system. But first, take a look at this. On the screen appeared the girl he had saved, smiling shyly. Hi, she said, looking embarrassed but grateful. I was wondering if I could give some of my points to that nice boy who saved me. He had green hair and was kind of plain looking. Izuku blinked. Wait, she wanted to give me her points? For what? It didn't make sense to him. She had her own future to secure, and it wasn't his place to risk it for the sake of one rescue. Present Mike's voice broke through his thoughts again. Don't worry, Midoriya, she kept her points. We have a special, secret point system called rescue points, because a hero's job is to save people. Thanks to your heroic act, you gain 60 rescue points. That's right, 60. Placing you in 7th place. Young Midoriya, welcome to your hero academia. Izuku's heart skipped a beat. His first real step into becoming a hero was here. It didn't matter that the old him would have cried. He had long since learned to hide his tears. He had to play it cool, especially with his mother around. She entered the room just in time, enveloping him in a warm hug. I'm so proud of you, Izuku. Izuku smiled, wrapping his arms around her. It felt. The embrace was comforting, like a reassuring sign that things were going to be okay. His mother was proud of him. And that was enough to make him feel like the world was a little bit brighter. Time skip. Izuku had become a rising star, saving hundreds of people during his patrols, his popularity growing with each rescue. But it wasn't just civilians who were taking note of his actions. Heroes, villains, and even the police had started to notice the mysterious vigilante known only as Air Zero R. The detective, along with Eraserhead, had begun investigating this enigmatic figure. They had no real leads, no solid age, no defined quirk, and no clue as to where they lived. The vigilante's identity was a puzzle, and the more they tried to dig, the more questions arose. No one could figure out the identity behind the mask, not even the people who were supposed to be experts at cracking cases. Eraserhead was particularly intrigued by Air Zero R, though he would never admit it. There was something about the way they operated so precise, so unpredictable that kept drawing him in. But it also made him wary. What was this vigilante playing at? Several months passed, and the case seemed to be at a standstill. That's when Nizu, ever the genius, took it upon himself to hack into surveillance cameras in an attempt to find any clues. Through painstaking efforts, they managed to dig up some footage. A few key moments stood out: a glimpse of Air Zero R's face, a flash of black hair and red eyes. Those red eyes. It was a striking detail, but Nizu and Eraserhead knew better than to get too excited. People could easily use contacts, wigs, or hair dye to disguise their appearance. It wasn't enough to go on. The investigation was still ongoing, but the more they watched Air Zero R's rescues, the more they became certain of one thing: the vigilante was skilled, intelligent, and far more dangerous than they initially realized. Little did they know, the truth was far closer than they imagined. Izuku Midoriya was Air Zero R, but for now he would remain hidden behind his mask. It wasn't just his quirk or his skills that made him unique, it was the way he was changing the world, one rescue at a time. And as long as he had the element of surprise, he'd continue to balance his two lives, playing the hero at UA and the vigilante in the shadows. But time was running out. The heroes were getting closer to the truth. And soon, Izuku would have to decide how long he could keep the two lives separate before they collided in ways he could never anticipate. One thing was for sure: Aizawa was going to have even more problems on his hands. Izuku POV. The day had finally arrived. The first day at UA High. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. I knew it would be chaotic. First days always are, especially when you're surrounded by people with powers that could level a building. Not to mention, everyone here had more energy than I'd ever seen in one place. Too much energy, in my opinion. I stared up at the massive door before me. Class 1A. Why did they have to make the door so ridiculously huge? It felt like they were mocking short people like me. I mean, yeah, I'm short, but seriously? My nerves were starting to kick in. It wasn't the kind of nervousness you get when you're about to risk your life. It was more like the nervousness of meeting new people after being away from social interaction for so long. Without a mask. I pushed the door open. As soon as I stepped inside, I was met with the guy from the entrance exam, the one with the stick up his butt, yelling at Bakugo. It is extremely disrespectful to have your feet on the desk. Get them down immediately. Great. This was going to be fun. Oh hey, it's you. The boy who saved me in the exam. It's Deku, right? A cheerful voice called from the side. A minute, she used the name, Deku. Well, I guess I'll roll with it. Everyone in the room turned their attention to me. I put on my best smile and stepped forward. Hi, don't worry about it. A hero's supposed to save people, right? My name's actually Izuku Midoriya, but you can call me Deku if you want. It's a nickname Kaken gave me. She smiled brightly. My name's Achiko Uraraka. You can just call me Uraraka. Are you all right after the exam? You looked pretty banged up. Yeah, don't worry about it, I said, trying to act casual. Recovery girl patched me up right away. She nodded, clearly relieved. Just as she was about to say something else, the guy with glasses spoke up. But wait, did he just bow? I sincerely apologize for my actions earlier. I shouldn't have underestimated you. You noticed the hidden point system in the exam. My name is Tenya Ida. It's a pleasure to meet you. He bowed again, deeper this time. It felt awkward. Nice to meet you too, Ida, I said. But, honestly, I didn't realize there was a secret point system. I just did what a hero would do, saved Uraraka when she needed help. That's all. Ida straightened, looking slightly embarrassed but grateful. Before anyone could say anything else, a noise at the door caught my attention. A head with wild, spiky hair appeared. It was Eraserhead. My heart sank. Oh, what have I gotten myself into? The class turned to look, and Eraserhead spoke up in his usual dry tone. It took you 8 seconds to notice me and quiet down. I expected better from you all. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shoyuda Aizawa. Now, get changed into your gym uniforms and meet me on the field in 7 minutes. Don't be late. Of course, he was exactly how I expected a no-nonsense teacher who wouldn't tolerate any nonsense. I sighed internally. I managed to get to the field in 5 minutes, one of the perks of my alternate lifestyle. The rest of the class trickled in slowly, most of them clearly not as practiced at changing quickly. Honestly, if this were a real emergency, a lot of people would be dead by the time they finished dressing. Eraserhead wasn't having any of it, though. I'm not impressed. It took you all that long to get changed? I told you not to be late. In a real-life situation, lives would be on the line. Anyway, we'll be doing a quirk apprehension test. Whoever finishes last will be expelled. The class erupted in an uproar. Complaints and protests filled the room. Some were outright panicking. Not fair, someone shouted. Eraserhead was having none of it. Not fair? Life isn't fair. If life were fair, we wouldn't be here right now. Life doesn't give a DMN whether it's fair or not. So you better get used to it. I couldn't agree more. Alright, Eraserhead continued, let's start with Bakugo. Since you placed first in the entrance exam, how far could you throw a baseball in middle school? About 65 meters, Bakugo replied smugly. Then step into the circle and throw the ball using your quirk. Bakugo's face twisted into a grin. He stood in the circle, his body coiling with tension before he shouted, "Die!" The explosion from his hands sent the ball flying, and the screen flashed with a number, 705.2 meters. His grin widened. That's right. Bakugo bragged. Unlike middle school, we use our quirks here. UA will train you until you drop. If you're not ready for that, the exit's right over there. I couldn't help but think that if I were allowed to show off my vigilante skills, this would be fun. But I knew better. So, I kept up my act, pretending to be a nervous mess. Somehow, I ended up dead last after everyone else threw. It was finally my turn. Uraraka had just gotten an infinity. Great. Now it was my turn. I glanced at Eraserhead, who was watching intently. I guess I could use that quirk I, magically, have now. But I needed to be careful. I powered up my arm, feeling the familiar burn as the energy surged. I knew there was probably a better way to use this quirk, but I had to stay in character. My hand ped back, ready to throw. Then, without warning, the power stopped. The ball dropped from my hand. Eraserhead, I muttered under my breath. His voice came from behind me, cold as ever. I erased your quirk. You can't be so reckless. Do you think someone will heal you every time you use it? Think before you act. Okay, so using my arm was a no-go. I quickly adjusted my stance and focused on my finger, powering it up instead. I couldn't waste any time. I didn't want to show too much, but I needed to impress him. Smash! I yelled despite how stupid it sounded. The ball flew, and the screen flickered to life. 705.3 meters. I beat Bakugo. I couldn't help but smirk internally. I could only imagine what he was thinking, but I was still dead last. Go figure. I started packing up my things, feeling the weight of Eraserhead's warning. No one was safe if they didn't give it their all. As I was gathering my stuff, I pretended to wince in pain, holding my arm and looking up at Eraserhead. Hey, Aizawa-sensei, I'm still standing. For a moment, he locked eyes with me. There was something in his gaze, a flicker of approval, maybe? As you all know, he began, the person who finished last would be expelled. But that was just a logical ruse. I expect you all to try your hardest this year. Good luck. You're going to need it. And with that, the first day was over. What a day. And I'm pretty sure I'll be seeing Eraserhead again soon. Probably tonight. I guess I'll have to get used to it. The night air felt cool against Izuku's skin as he crouched atop a building in Mizudafu, scanning the streets below. The city was quieter tonight than usual, the faint hum of traffic and distant chatter of pedestrians offering a rare sense of calm. After the whirlwind of his first day at UA, he was supposed to be processing everything that had happened: the tests, the classmates, the overwhelming potential of his new life. But instead, his thoughts kept drifting back to the other side of his life, the secret one, the one that called him every night. Tonight, like every other, he wasn't Izuku Midoriya, the hero student. He was Air Zero R, the vigilante who prowled the city's darkest corners. Dressed in his custom outfit, a mix of tactical gear and repurposed fabrics, he blended into the shadows with ease. His mask concealed his identity, and with it, the truth of who he was, of what he had become. A quiet whisper in the back of his mind urged him to keep going, to keep fighting for those who couldn't protect themselves. But with every night he spent out here, it felt like he was walking closer to the edge. Closer to the point where he couldn't turn back. He had been doing this for months now, moving quickly, helping those in need, and leaving before anyone could figure out who he was. But the fear was always there. The fear that someone would see through his mask. The fear that his two lives would collide, and the world would discover that the quiet, awkward kid at UA was also the mysterious vigilante who was starting to make waves in the city. The fear that if anyone found out who he really was, it would all be over. His dream of becoming a hero, his future at UA, everything. Gone in an instant. Izuku pushed that thought aside as his sharp eyes scanned the streets below. Tonight felt different. There was something in the air, an unease that crawled up his spine, urging him to be alert. His eyes moved from one shadow to another, assessing the movements of pedestrians and watching for any signs of trouble. But nothing. It was quiet, too quiet. That's when his instincts kicked in. Something was wrong. His heart rate spiked as he honed in on the source of the disturbance. His ears picked up muffled voices from an alley just to his right. The sound of scuffling feet. He didn't need to see it to know what was happening. Thugs, up to no good. Izuku's muscles tensed as he slipped silently off the edge of the building, landing with a soft thud on the ground below. He moved quickly, his shoes barely making a sound as he crept toward the alley. In the dim light of the street lamp, he saw them. A group of thugs, surrounding a woman. Their sneers gleamed in the low light as they pushed her against the wall, mocking her fear. Izuku's blood boiled. These kinds of scum had no place in the city. He wasn't going to let this escalate further. But before he could act, a voice interrupted him, low and familiar. "I knew I'd find you out here." Izuku smirked underneath his mask. He didn't have to turn around to recognize the voice. Eraserhead, or rather Shoyuda Aizawa. Of course, it had to be him. Funny thing is that one hero he had started to trust, the one who had been chasing him for weeks now, is now his homeroom teacher. How delightful. If Eraserhead discovered who he really was, it would all be over. His chance at becoming a true hero would vanish, and worse, his secret life as Air Zero R would be exposed. Izuku smirked underneath his mask, trying to mask the panic rising in his chest. "What's up, my guy? Planning to fail at catching me again? Well, I'll tell you in advance this time that I have other plans." Aizawa's tone was calm, but the warning in his voice was unmistakable. "Jokes at this hour again, huh? You are definitely my #1 problem child. Mind telling me your name? Makes my job so much easier. Look who's telling jokes now, Eraser. Now, are we going to keep chitter-chatting like we're old ladies knitting, or are you going to let me save this woman?" Izuku shot back, "The less time talking the better." Aizawa sighed, but his eyes narrowed as he turned his attention to the thugs who were still menacing the woman. "Step away from her," Aizawa ordered, his voice steady, unwavering. Izuku didn't need to be told twice. The instant the command was given, he moved into action. Without missing a beat, he advanced on the thugs, his body moving like a blur. Quick strikes and precise kicks took down one thug, then another, each blow landing with pinpoint accuracy. In a matter of seconds, they were all on the ground, groaning and restrained. The woman, frozen with fear, blinked in surprise, her eyes wide with disbelief. Slowly, she backed away, breathing a shaky sigh of relief as she took a few steps toward safety. Izuku, his heart still pounding from the rush of adrenaline, stood back, trying to shake off the intense moment. It had been a close call, but at least the woman was safe. "You didn't need to help. I was fine by myself," Izuku pouted, though the relief he felt was palpable. If it wasn't for Eraserhead stepping in when he did, things could have gone south quickly. Aizawa didn't reply right away. He simply looked at the group of thugs on the ground, still recovering from the beatdown. His gaze was as sharp as ever, his attention focused on the criminals as they tried to recover. "Well, I'd better drop these thugs off at the station," Eraserhead said with a tone that hinted at finality. "You gonna help the woman?" Izuku opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, the air around them shifted. A heavy, oppressive presence filled the alley. Izuku's stomach churned, the hair on the back of his neck standing up as he felt the unmistakable pressure of flames in the air. He didn't need to see him to know who it was. Endeavor. The #2 hero had arrived. Izuku's breath caught in his throat as the heat from Endeavor's flames radiated into the alley. He couldn't make out the full form of the hero just yet, but the force of his presence, crushing and overwhelming, was all too familiar. And it was enough to send Izuku's pulse skyrocketing. "What's this? A villain?" Endeavor's booming voice echoed through the alley. You must be punished. Before Izuku could react, the hero's hand shot forward, a punch spiraling into flames aimed directly at him. No, wait, the woman! She was still behind him. How could Endeavor be so careless? Instinct took over. Izuku grabbed the woman and leapt. His muscles burned with the effort, but he managed to get both of them out of harm's way just as the flames passed dangerously close to them. The woman scrambled to her feet and quickly ran for her life, her fear giving her the strength to move faster. Eraserhead turned fully to face Endeavor, stepping between the fiery hero and Izuku, his eyes hard and serious as he activated his quirk. Stop. Endeavor, what if you had hit that woman? Anyway, they are not a villain. Now leave. His tone was unusually firm, more defensive than usual, as if protecting Izuku from the firestorm that was now unfolding in front of them. Izuku's pulse quickened again. This was bad. Very bad. He couldn't stay here, not with Endeavor's burning gaze locked on him. If Endeavor realized who he was, it would be over. He would be exposed. And not just exposed, he would be dead. Endeavor's gaze locked on Izuku, his flames growing hotter and fiercer as he advanced. Don't try to get away, villain. Izuku's legs went stiff. His body screamed at him to run, but fear kept him rooted in place. His heart raced as the heat from Endeavor's flames surged toward him, growing stronger by the second. His only option was to move. A split second before the fire engulfed him, Izuku acted. He bolted, diving into an alley with all the speed he could muster. His lungs burned as he ran, the heat of the flames liking at his heels. He didn't dare look back. Go! Eraserhead's sharp voice echoed behind him. I've got this. That was all Izuku needed. With one last glance over his shoulder, he dashed into the maze of alleys, feeling the sting of the burn on his side but not slowing down. His heart raced, the adrenaline still coursing through him as he pushed himself faster. Once the distance was enough, Izuku slowed, gasping for breath. The burn on his side was sharp, painful, a constant reminder of how close he had come to being exposed. He stumbled for a moment, clutching his side, but kept moving. There was no time to think about the burn. No time to focus on the searing pain that shot through him with every step. He had to get home, to cover the injury and make sure no one found out. Tomorrow would be another day at UA, and he couldn't afford for anyone to figure out his secret. Tomorrow, he would be Izuku Midoriya again. But for now he was Air Zero R, and Air Zero R. Couldn't afford getting caught. The sound of Izuku's alarm blaring yanked him from a restless sleep. His side still throbbed from last night's close call with Endeavor's flames, the burn a constant reminder of how close he'd come to being exposed. He had barely gotten any sleep, his mind replaying the events over and over, the moment he had been caught by Eraserhead, the clash with Endeavor, and the fear that lingered, threatening to swallow him whole. Shaking his head, Izuku pushed the thoughts aside. All right, new day, new opportunity to pretend I'm normal, well, normalish. He smirked to himself as he got out of bed. Today was the second day at UA, and despite everything weighing on him, it was his chance to prove he belonged there. Let's not mess this up. Unless it's in a cool way. After a quick breakfast, Izuku grabbed his bag and headed out. He couldn't afford to let last night's mess distract him. One mistake at a time, Midoriya. You've got this. When he arrived at UA, the buzz of excitement in the air was undeniable. Students milled about, talking about what the day would bring. Some looked more nervous than others, while others were practically vibrating with anticipation. Izuku couldn't help but feel out of place. Great, look at all these confident, natural-born heroes. And then there's me, who just spent half the night dodging flames and Eraserhead. He was so wrapped up in his thoughts that he almost missed the cheerful voice that greeted him. Good morning, Deku. Uraraka said, her bright smile cutting through the tension in his chest. Good morning, Uraraka. Izuku replied, plastering his big, fake smile across his face. She's way too optimistic at this time of morning. Although I probably should stay close to her to seem less suspicious. They both made their way to class. The second day at UA felt like a new start, But it also came with that overwhelming sense that he couldn't show off and had to fake being weak. I mean, honestly, if this were a video game, I'd be the low-level NPC they throw in just to make the pros look good. As soon as they entered the classroom, the door slid open, and a voice boomed across the room. "I am here, coming through the door like a normal person." Izuku winced at the loud voice. Of course it's All Might. There it is. The positive energy that could burn through anything. I think I just lost 10 years of my hearing. All Might strutted into the room, his bright smile so large it could have been a full moon. "Good morning, one. Today I will be in charge of the lesson and we are doing something special. A hero training exercise." The room buzzed with excitement. Izuku, however, felt his stomach churn. Great physical exercise, with quirks, against each other. More chances to get my face blown off by Bakugu's explosions. But hey, maybe I'll survive this time without any fire-related injuries. All Might's eyes scanned the room, and he clapped his hands. "Now, here's how this will go. Each of you will team up with someone and face off against another team. Your mission is simple: get across the arena before the other team. Use your quirks to overcome obstacles and be the first to finish." Izuku's stomach dropped. Team up with someone? Oh, that's not ominous at all. "Alright, your teams are as follows," All Might said dramatically, his voice almost too cheerful. "Midoriya and Uraraka. You're up against Bakugu and Ida." The room went silent for a second as everyone digested the news. Izuku froze. Of course I'm with Uraraka. And of course we're facing Bakugu. The world must seem to hate me, doesn't it? He looked at Uraraka, who gave him an encouraging smile. "We can do this, Deku." Right, we've got this." Izuku grinned back, trying to ignore the anxiety creeping up his spine. "It's not like I'm injured or anything. This is fine. I can totally handle Bakugu. Not like I'm about to get blown up or anything. Wait, maybe I should get blown up, then go to Recovery Girl, then boom, burn healed." They made their way to the arena. All Might wished both teams good luck. As the countdown started, Izuku's thoughts raced. What shitty luck I seem to have. I face danger on a daily basis. I can handle Bakugu and Ida. I just can't explode. Or catch fire. Whatever I do, I must not get caught in the blast radius. I repeat, no exploding, no fire. The countdown hit 0. Go! All Might's voice rang through the arena like a thunderclap. As All Might shouted, the teams sprang into action. Immediately, Bakugu launched himself forward, explosions erupting from his hands with destructive force. The ground shook as he barreled toward them. Just has to make an impression, doesn't he? "Move, Deku!" Bakugu shouted, voice filled with rage. "I'm gonna blow you away." Dimon, how many times have I heard that line before? Izuku couldn't use his quirk. Not without injuring himself, although he already was injured. "I'll handle Bakugu," Izuku muttered through his earpiece. "As long as Uraraka gets to the bomb, then they win. I just need to keep him distracted." Uraraka, already airborne, shot him a determined look. "You've got this, Deku," she called before speeding off to find where the bomb was hidden. Ida, quick and precise, was already standing guard. Izuku turned back to Bakugu, who was barreling toward him with explosive fury. He dodged Bakugu's first blast by a hair, feeling the heat singe his side. "Great! Now I'm basically a walking burn victim. What's next? A lightning strike?" Bakugu was relentless. "Come on, nerd." Bakugu yelled, launching another explosion, this one forcing Izuku to leap back, narrowly avoiding the blast. "Fight me already, or are you looking down on me?" Izuku gritted his teeth. "I'd love to, Bakugu. But I'm kind of busy here, dodging death. You know, just normal hero stuff." His heart pounded, and every muscle in his body screamed in protest, but he couldn't show it. "Not yet." "I'm not looking down on you, Kaken," Izuku muttered, stepping back, trying to keep his distance. "Why do you always have to yell? It's like your quirk is just being loud and obnoxious." Bakugu growled, clearly frustrated. "What, are you too scared to fight me, Deku?" he roared, throwing another explosion at Izuku. "Seriously, what is it with you and explosions? Could you get a new hobby?" Izuku barely sidestepped the blast. If only I could just stop dodging and let him blow me up. Maybe then I could get some rest in the infirmary. Honestly, if I'm gonna be hurt, at least make it interesting. His muscles were aching from the constant movement, the strain from last night's injuries weighing on him. Yeah, I think I'm about to collapse. I should get a medal for Best Pretender. He couldn't keep this up forever. He needed to stall long enough for Uraraka to grab the bomb. Meanwhile, Uraraka was facing off with Ida. She floated just out of his reach, dodging his attempts to catch her. You go, Uraraka. Keep him busy while I get my act together over here. Can't get past me, hero? Ida declared, trying to sound intimidating but coming off more like a bad villain from a kid's cartoon. I'm pretty sure I've heard that line in like 100 superhero shows. Get some new material, dude. Izuku winced as Bakugo charged again, the ground shaking under the force of his explosions. I can't believe I'm stuck doing this. Why does it always have to be Bakugo? There's a whole school full of students, and I get paired with him. So unfair. Another explosion blasted through the air, forcing Izuku to jump to the side. His body groaned in pain, the strain of dodging wearing him down. I'm starting to feel like a human pinball here. Just bouncing from one explosion to the next. But he couldn't stop. Not now. Just a little longer, Izuku. Keep him distracted, then you're golden. Don't think about your burning side or how you can barely breathe. Just stall. Stall. Bakugo, eyes blazing with fury, charged again, his hands glowing with an even bigger explosion. Oh great, this is gonna be huge, isn't it? If I survive this, maybe I can get a spot on some superhero reality show. Dim it. Bakugo yelled. You better dodge, Deku. Now The explosion was massive. Izuku's heart skipped a beat, and he jumped to the side, but not before the blast singed his already burned side. And there it is. The icing on the cake. Just a little more charred for flavor. But then bam, the buzzer rang. Izuku collapsed to the ground, his body entirely spent from the battle. His side ached, muscles burned, and his brain was spinning. But they'd won. He could hardly believe it. They'd actually pulled it off. Uraraka knelt beside him, beaming. We did it, Midoriya. We won. Izuku managed a tired smile, the pain in his body fading just a little in the wake of their victory. Yeah. We did, he said, his voice low but genuine. I should probably start keeping track of my injuries at this point. Just how many burns does a guy have to get before they start offering free medical care for hero wannabes? But as they basked in their victory, Bakugo's furious glare bore down on him. You're lucky, Deku, he growled, fists clenched. Next time I won't miss. Izuku, barely able to stay conscious, didn't have the energy to argue back. Instead, he just smiled faintly. Sure, Bakugo. Sure you won't. Maybe you'll blow up the whole arena next time. That should be fun. He had done what he needed to. They won today, but the war? Oh, that's just getting started. The city at night feels like a living, breathing entity, its pulse steady but unpredictable. The skyline is a sea of glowing windows, with the occasional flicker of lights as people finish their work or begin their evening. Streetlights bathe the roads in a soft, amber glow, their light cutting through the dark like tiny islands in a vast ocean of shadow. The hum of traffic is constant, but muted now, as the late hours settle in. The streets are quieter, though not empty. Pedestrians move with purpose, their footsteps echoing on the wet pavement, the sound amplified by the occasional gust of wind. Some carry bags or coffee cups, others with their heads down, lost in thought or avoiding the chill in the air. A few neon signs flash above, advertising 24-hour diners, convenience stores, and underground clubs. The distant rumble of a subway train echoes through the underground tunnels, while overhead, the low growl of car engines cuts through the stillness. The air feels cooler, laced with the scent of rain, whether recent or impending, making the city smell fresh, with an earthy undertone. In the corners of the streets, shadows stretch long, creating an eerie atmosphere, where the unknown lurks in the dark crevices. Amid the quiet hum of the city, a lone figure moves through the shadows, blending seamlessly into the night. The figure is short, dressed in the colors of black and red, their face obscured by a black mask, showing only their red eyes. A black hood pulls low, casting their features in mystery, and the faint glint of a gloved hand hints at the readiness of someone who has seen much of the city's underbelly. They move with purpose, their footsteps soft but steady, cutting through the empty streets. The figure pauses at the edge of a flickering street lamp, scanning the surroundings, eyes sharp as they take in every detail: the abandoned alleyways, the parked cars, the distant sounds of laughter from a nearby bar. The city's noise is a dull backdrop to their focus. This presence is not part of the crowds that flood the city during the day. They are a presence in the shadows, part of the city's darker fabric, watching, waiting. A faint ripple of movement from the corner of their eye catches their attention. Without hesitation, they slip into an alley, their silhouette merging with the darkness. Their mission is always the same: to protect the city, to right the wrongs that others overlook, to keep watch over the streets when the law cannot. Their steps quicken, now fully absorbed in their pursuit, as the city's pulse beats around them, a backdrop to their own silent struggle. The night is their domain, and the darkness, their ally. Izuku's POV. It's been a long day. Seriously, it's only the second day, and we're already fighting each other to the point of possible injury. Like, come on, All Might, think. I know we're all trying to push our limits, but this is a bit much. At least I'm glad I managed to get that burn healed without raising suspicion. Thank Bakugo for that, especially since he ended up burning my already burned side. Thankfully, everyone just assumed it was his doing. After I got patched up, I had to rest for a while. I'm honestly surprised I had enough energy to heal in one go. I mean, yes, I sleep, but only from the time I get home until just before dinner. Then I quickly do homework, have dinner, sleep for a couple more hours, then go on patrol until morning. After that, I nap until my alarm goes off. I guess when I think about it, I do get enough sleep, it's just at weird times. I now completely understand why Eraserhead sleeps during class. Anyway, I'm on patrol now. Ding. My phone. My burner phone, to be specific. New message from Shinso. Shinso. Right, I remember now. He's the kid I helped out, the one I saved from those bullies. I gave him my number at the time. Let's see what he has to say. Srey, CNU me please? Please come quickly. Looks like he's in trouble. I better get there fast. I need to find the quickest route. Google Maps it is. Roof-topping is the best option. Time skip. The location he gave wasn't an alleyway, so it can't be thugs or bullies. It's a house. Actually, I was planning on checking out his home situation sometime, but never got around to it. Guess I'll do it now. E for Air 0R. S for Shinso. E, I'm here, where are you? S, Sumet. E, anything else I should know? S, sleep. No wake yet. E, okay, coming. I turn my phone off. Abuse. It has to be. It also seems like he is struggling to type. I climb through an open window. Seriously, who leaves their windows open at night? Basement, yeah. Found it. Now, I have to be real quiet. Shinso, I'm coming. Let's just say it wasn't a pretty scene. I'd already called the police, medics, and Eraserhead beforehand. Shinso's lucky he had his phone on him and the energy to even type that message. I'm here now. It's okay, everything's going to be all right, I whisper, trying to calm him down. I hear sirens approaching. The door to the basement creaks open behind me. The parents. What do you think you're doing? Now that you've seen, we'll have to silence you. The mother was about to use her quirk, but it's erased in an instant. Thank God for Eraserhead. He swiftly knocked both of them out. What's up, Eraser? So, this is clearly an abuse case and looks like attempted murder. I'll let you handle the rest from here. Oh, by the way, this is Shinso. Did you know he's a UA student? He messaged me for help, so I called you, the police, and the paramedics. Please take good care of him. And my phone? It can't be tracked. Eraserhead groans. Problem child. It had to be you. How did you even get my number? Actually, I'm not gonna question it. How did the kid even message you? Can you at least help us get him to the paramedics? I'll deal with the parents. He looks tired. As for the number? That's my secret. He'll never know how I got it. Okay, let's go. Don't try anything funny and arrest me, alright? Not planning to, problem child. We get Shinso to the ambulance, and I leave before the police arrive. I visited him a few times while he was in the hospital through the window, of course. We started chatting a bit. Apparently, he's being adopted by two pro-heroes. I wonder who. None other than Eraserhead and Present Mike. I've been talking to Hitoshi almost every day since then. Yes, I call him Hitoshi now that he's been adopted, though he still doesn't know who I really am. He tells me all sorts of things about Eraserhead and Mike. I like to call it blackmail sparkles. Hitoshi told me everything about his situation, and let's just say his parents will be locked away for a long time. Since that incident, I've noticed the case surrounding me is expanding. I recently heard that Nizu has been brought in to look into it, and that's a pain. They tried asking Hitoshi how he contacted me, but luckily, I disposed of the old phone and secretly gave him a new number. So, I'm safe for now. As for UA, things are Figus. Apparently, there's a field trip coming up for Class 1A that everyone's talking about. Oh, and there was a break-in the other day. Supposedly, it was the press, but I know the press can't disintegrate fences like that. It's the League, I'm sure of it. I've recently found out who they are, and something big is coming. I just don't know what yet. I think it's something to do with the field trip. Now, I just have to decide whether to go as Deku or as Air Zero R. Decisions. Guess I'll have to make a choice. Life can be so hard sometimes, can't it? The morning sun bathed UA High School in a warm, golden light. Despite the peaceful exterior, there was an unmistakable buzz in the air. The students of Class 1A had gathered at the front of the school in their hero costumes, ready for their first ever field trip. Their excitement was palpable, but beneath the surface, there was an undercurrent of nervous energy. After all, this was their first official training exercise outside the school walls. They were headed to the U.S.J, the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, a state-of-the-art facility designed for rescue training. The bus ride wasn't long since the facility was nearby, but the anticipation made it feel like hours. Students chatted excitedly, comparing their quirks and speculating on what kind of training they would face. Izuku found it hard to focus. He was already exhausted from the night before and the constant feeling of something bad was going to happen. He just wanted to get it over with, train, and return home to rest. Upon arrival, they were greeted by 13, the hero specializing in rescue operations. She explained the different zones within the U.S.J, which mimicked real-world disaster situations, perfect for training future heroes. But before the students could settle into the routine, something strange happened. A portal began to open in the distance, shimmering with an ominous energy. Hey, look, they even got fake villains, Kaminari, the electric blonde, pointed out, laughing, clearly not understanding the severity of the situation. Those villains aren't fake. Get back. Eraserhead, their teacher, barked, his voice laced with authority. The students' laughter died down instantly, and the air became heavy with tension. 13. Evacuate the students. Eraserhead commanded, his usual laid-back demeanor gone. He was serious now, and his eyes scanned the area, searching for threats. A villain's voice echoed from the portal, sneering, "Where is he? I went through all this trouble to bring this crowd. All Might, the so-called symbol of peace, where is he? He was supposed to be here. Maybe we'll get his attention if we kill a few students." "Yeah, let's do that." Izuku stared. He recognized some of the villains' faces from news reports and underground sources. He knew something was going to happen. He knew that something big was coming up. It was an attack on UA. Before he could conjure up a plan, a thick purple mist began to swirl around them, obscuring their vision. It seemed to come out of nowhere, swallowing up many, their whereabouts unknown. It was the first attack on UA in years, on first years no less. They were looking for All Might. Why? He isn't the #1 hero for nothing. Unless they have a way to deal with All Might. Izuku's POV. Great, just great. I was already exhausted this morning, and the bus ride didn't help at all. Stuck in a bus full of energetic teenagers, trying to act cheerful when I was obviously running on empty. Honestly, I was just trying to survive the ride without snapping at anyone. Just what I needed, right? But I made it. Somehow. The thought of getting through the training quickly so I could go home and collapse in bed kept me going. I could already feel my eyes starting to droop. Maybe I'd finally get some sleep before having to roast Eraserhead or the other heroes and police officers who like to make my life difficult. I must have jinxed myself. Hey, look, they even got fake villains, Kaminari said, pointing at the portal. I glanced over and my stomach dropped. Not fake. I recognized them. A few of the villains from Underground Report's villains that only the highest-ranked heroes dealt with. Oh, great, I muttered under my breath, realizing I'd walked straight into something bad. I should have paid more attention. Those villains aren't fake. Get back. Eraserhead snapped, his voice cutting through the panic that was quickly building in the air. No kidding, Sherlock. I thought everyone would have noticed that by now. Some of us might have been lacking in brainpower, but this was a pretty obvious situation. 13. Evacuate the students. Eraserhead ordered, his eyes darting around. Seriously? Is little ol' Eraserhead going to handle this all by himself? Maybe I'd tease him for being so dramatic if I didn't have to hide my identity, that is. And then, the villain's voice boomed from the portal again. Where is he? I went through all this trouble to bring this crowd. All Might, the so-called symbol of peace. Where is he? He was supposed to be here. Maybe we'll get his attention if we kill a few students. Yeah, let's do that. Oh great. Yeah, just kill some students and that'll get All Might's attention. Genius idea. Before I could even process what was happening, I felt a strange pull, like gravity itself had shifted. The world spun and I gasped for air. Suddenly, I was underwater. The teleportation quirk must have tossed me into the shipwreck zone. Perfect. Of course, the villains would separate us, try to take us out one by one. Smart. A shark villain, a massive, sharp-toothed man was heading straight for me. The lunged dove? Ick. Oh, fantastic. But then, Froggy appeared and grabbed me just in time. Honestly, I didn't need saving. I could have taken the shark villain down myself. A good punch to the nose and he would have backed off. But I didn't argue. I wasn't in the mood to get into a fight with a giant fish. One thing's for certain, they don't know our quirks. Froggy carried me to the ship, holding the unconscious grapist. Honestly, I should have just let him drown. He would have done the world a favor. Thanks, Azui, I muttered, my words coming out the way just like the sunshine I definitely am. She stared at me. Call me Tsu. Just Tsu. Right, I grumbled. But inside, I couldn't help but think of her as Froggy. Not that I was going to tell her that. The grape head started stirring. I wasn't really paying attention to the situation. Froggy was talking to me and the grapist, but everything felt like a blur. My mind kept replaying the villain's words, and I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that we were all in way deeper than we'd realized. Then, they both stared at me, their expectant eyes boring into me. Great. Just what I needed. The pressure of their gaze weighing down on me. They wanted a plan, from me no less. Well, let's just say I made a plan good enough to survive within the time span of 10 seconds. It involved a panicking grapist, 2 broken fingers, and a whirlpool. It worked. Somehow. I wasn't going to question my luck. We finally made it to the center of the area, where Eraserhead was still holding off villains. He wasn't looking great. His movements were sharp, but he was outnumbered. Still he kept his cool. We weren't supposed to do anything, we should be evacuating, but there was no way I was going to sit back. Not when my favorite hero was fighting all alone. I was getting in that fight one way or another. Not a chance in hell was I going to sit this one out. After all, I don't want him stealing the spotlight. Aizawa's POV. I don't get paid enough for this. But I'm here, and my responsibility is clear. My students are my priority, no matter what it costs me. So, I'm stuck in the middle of a chaotic battle, fighting off these villains. My usual strategy relies on the element of surprise, something that's difficult to pull off when you're facing an all-out assault like this. Still, I can't afford to hesitate. Hopefully, the students are being evacuated as we speak. For now, I can manage. These villains are weak, probably nothing more than cannon fodder for whatever worse threat is coming. I can take care of this. The leader is the priority. I can't let him escape, or this situation will get a lot worse. I make my move and strike. I can feel the sweat on my brow, but it's no time to slow down. If I don't act fast, I'll lose the upper hand. I see him. I go for the knockout. But then, I hear footsteps behind me, a trap. Before I can react, a sudden, blinding pain shoots through my arm. My elbow, it feels like it's being torn apart. The skin disintegrates, eaten away by some kind of corrosive attack. I jump back, trying to get away from the pain, from the villain. It must be the leader. Unfortunately for you, I'm not the final boss, the man sneers. No, Mugo. Suddenly, a creature appears, massive, hulking, with a mouth shaped like a bird's beak and its brain sticking out. I barely have time to process it before the thing lunges. It grabs me, overpowering my defense. I failed. Now, I can only pray my students can pull it together. Ida, he's the key. He's got to send for backup. Where's that disintegration man-child? Wait, my students. Azui. He's after Azui. I can't let that happen. I force myself to move one last time. My quirk. I just need a moment. I can't afford to let anyone die on my watch. Not now. Sparkles stare Sparkles. You're so cool, Eraserhead. The words barely register before the pain hits again. The Nomu strikes with relentless force, and then everything goes dark. Izuku's POV. I watch in horror, helpless. Eraserhead. His arm, the way it's no, I can't think about it. I can't let myself be paralyzed by fear. Unfortunately for you, I'm not the final boss. No, Mugo. The creature bursts forward. Its brain is exposed, and it's unlike anything I've ever seen. It's going straight for Eraserhead. I have to move. I can't, no, I won't let him die. But in my rush to protect Eraserhead, I make a mistake. I don't see the villain creeping toward Sue. My focus was entirely on Eraser. Damn it. You're so cool, Eraserhead. I realize, with a sinking heart, how much that must have cost him. All of his strength, drained just to make sure we're okay. To protect us. I tease him too much during patrols. I never really stop to think about what he's doing for us. How hard he works to keep us safe. The Nomu charges again. I can't just watch. I can't let this happen. I surge forward, my body moving on instinct, and I use one for all to launch myself at the Nomu. The hit lands with a crack, but the creature doesn't budge. Shock absorption. This thing is built to take hits. I managed to injure it a little, tiny bit, but it regenerated. At least my bones didn't break. It's got multiple quirks. This has to be all for one's doing. The same villain who's caused so much destruction before. I didn't want to believe it, but he must be alive. Now we're up against another mastermind. How long has it been since this all started? I can't afford to waste any more time. Come on, Ida. You have to hurry. And where the hell is All Might? Do not fear, for I am here. Finally, All Might arrives like a beacon of hope in the form of an overpowered buffoon. The Nomu turns its attention toward him, and the two begin to exchange blows. The power behind each strike is enough to shake the ground, but it's clear that the Nomu is no pushover. We all jump into action, trying to help, but the battle is far from over. All Might's struggles are obvious, but with our combined efforts, we manage to hold our ground. Me as the author being lazy and skipping a little. The battle finally ends, but the damage is done. The UA teachers arrive, fashionably late, but they're here in time to help stabilize the situation. Ida is with them, looking determined but worn. The villain who could disintegrate things is taken out by Snipe, though we didn't manage to catch him. At least they're retreating for now. Smoke rises from All Might, and Cementos quickly puts up a wall to shield the students and faculty. And then, All Might deflates, his muscular form vanishing as he returns to his weakened state. The aftermath is a blur of doctors, assessments, and interrogation with Detective Lie Detector. We all had to recount every detail of what happened, but it doesn't feel like it matters much now. At least we get a few days off from school. A chance to recover, but also to think. I can't just sit back and relax. I need to find their base. I need to find them before they find us again. Can't let them hurt this pretty face of mine. Time to get to work. T had been a few weeks since the U.S.J. incident, and I'd been on the grind hunting for any leads on the League of Villains. Spoiler, Nothing substantial had come up yet. But did I stop? Nope. I kept up my patrols, hitting the streets every single night. Eraserhead, once he'd recovered, was right back in the swing of things too, doing his usual routine of smacking down criminals and looking like a giant pencil while doing it. The usual chaos had died down a bit, probably because most of the villains had been used as cannon fodder in the recent incidents. The streets were quieter, with nothing much happening except the typical run-ins with petty criminals and the occasional thug trying to make a name for themselves. And then tonight, things took a delightful turn. "Get back here, you villain!" A pillar of flames shot past me, singeing the air so close I could practically feel my eyebrows burn off. Overreacting much? Yes, I wasn't a villain, I was a vigilante. There's a difference. A big one. "Stupid flaming trash," I muttered under my breath, dodging another fireball. You'd think someone who can control fire would learn how to aim. And here I was dodging fireballs from one of the most insufferable heroes in the country. Just another Monday night. With a delightful run-in with Endeavor. "Sorry, Endeavor," I shot back with a grin, knowing full well I'd dug into his less-than-sparkling past. "Not catching me tonight?" It's funny, really. The man had all this power, but it wasn't enough to make him a decent human being. Maybe if I survive this, I'll post all his dirty little secrets online. That'd be sweet revenge. Of course, I'd need to get the approval of the better Todoroki first. But you know what? Screw it. If I make it out of here, I'll figure it out later. For now, though, staying alive takes priority. So, what's one thing that can take down fire? Water. A fire hydrant could work. But what I really need is a fire extinguisher. Lucky for me, there's a fire station just down the street. It's like fate's decided to stop being a beach for once and is actually trying to be nice. I need to stall flaming trash over there long enough to grab what I need. Where the hell is Eraser when I need him? I swear, it's like the man only shows up when I don't need him. Just as I start to think I'm running out of time, the flames suddenly stop. An eerie silence fills the air, and I know exactly what's coming next. Those unmistakable red eyes. I'd missed them, even though it had only been a few days since the last time I saw them. Not the ones in class, though those don't compare to the intensity of his gaze at night. At this point, it's like a beacon. "About time, pencil tip." He sighs dramatically. "What am I going to do with you, problem child number one?" His voice is dripping with sarcasm, and I can practically hear his mental eye roll. Child? Who says I'm a child, but nice to know I'm your favorite. Anyway, gotta run by for now. I don't stick around to see if he's got anything else to say. I turn on my heel and bolt. The fire station's not far, and I need to get there before Endeavor recovers and goes full psycho on me again. Behind me, I hear Endeavor roaring in fury. "What are you doing? You're letting them get away. He's a villain. Let me go and give me my quirk back." He's still stuck on the whole villain thing. God, does he even know what a vigilante is? Newsflash, flaming trash. I'm not a villain. But thanks for playing. Time to make my move. As I rush toward the fire station, adrenaline's flooding my system. It feels like the perfect opportunity Endeavor's too wrapped up in Eraser to notice me. I've got to be quick though. Eraser can only stall him for so long. The man's got a limited attention span. I weave through the streets, dodging parked cars and slipping between alleyways. My heart's pounding in my chest. The station's almost in sight. I can hear Endeavor's angry shouts behind me. Honestly, it's kind of funny. The guy's voice is full of so much frustration, I almost feel bad for him. Keyword, almost. The fire station is right there. Just a little farther. I murmur to myself, grinning. I've already got the plan half formed in my mind. Once I reach the station, I just need to grab a fire extinguisher, aim it at Endeavor, and use it to disrupt his flames long enough to make a clean getaway. Simple. I race past the fire station's front entrance and slip into a narrow side alley. The sound of Endeavor's flames roaring behind me is getting louder. He's clearly not done chasing me, but I'm not slowing down. Just as I reach the side entrance, I spot it sitting there like a gift from the gods. A fire extinguisher, right next to the door. Perfect. I grab it, feeling the cold metal under my fingers, and twist the nozzle open, preparing for the next phase of my escape. I glance over my shoulder. Eraserhead's distraction is still holding. Endeavor's flames are growing erratic, flickering in and out. I've got a window, and I'm not about to waste it. But then, I catch a flicker of red-orange in my peripheral vision, the unmistakable heat of Endeavor's flames flaring up again. Just a little too close for comfort. It seems my window of time closing a lot faster than I thought. I take a deep breath, steadying myself. I can't let him catch me now, not after everything I've done to get here. The plan's simple, disable him long enough to slip through his fingers. I'll have to rely on my wits and a little improvisation to make this work. And there we have it, kids, how to deal with a flaming pile of trash. It's just another Monday night. When I got home, I basically collapsed. Hopefully we don't do much tomorrow. Wait, the sports carnival is coming up soon. DMN, I still gotta train my quirk. Yeah, just another Monday night. So, I've finally decided to start training my quirk in secret. Oh, no big deal, just preparing for the worst-case scenario where I'll have to save the day by unleashing my real power. With the slight chance of being arrested after if they catch on. You know, like every cheesy hero in a movie. Sounds dramatic, right? Well, welcome to my life. Let's talk about my quirk, one for all. What a gem. It gives me super strength, yay, how exciting. But here's the catch, every time I use it, my bones basically say, nope, we're out, and snap like twigs. It's so fun. Really. The best part? Activating it feels like flipping on a light switch, except the light is a giant floodlight and my body's a paper lantern. Not a great combo. But hey, I'm not one to sit around and let my quirk humiliate me forever. I've got a plan. It's totally foolproof, spoiler, it's not. Step 1. What do I know? My quirk is a super strength monster that doesn't care if I have functioning bones or not. Using it too much turns me into a human pretzel. Not ideal that it's like flipping a switch on or off, with no middle ground. Subtlety? Never heard of her. All Might is absolutely useless at teaching because telling me to clench my butt cheeks and yell, smash, is not great life advice at all. Step 2. What should I try? Instead of focusing all that power on one unlucky body part, maybe I could spread it out evenly, like butter on toast. But, you know, without breaking all my bones in the process. Air blast. Because apparently, punching the air hard enough to create a mini shockwave is a thing I could do? Sure, why not? Sounds completely reasonable. I mean, All Might can change the weather with his punches. Of course, I've thought this through. Kind of. First, I've programmed my phone with a voice-activated AI assistant. Because when my bones decide to take another vacation, I can just yell at my phone to call an ambulance. Problem solved. Genius, right? Timing is everything here. I've planned to do this while I'm away from school. It's not that I don't trust my classmates. Okay, it kind of is. Total trust is risky, and I'm not about to let anyone know I'm secretly playing mad scientist with my body. Also, Mum's at work. No way am I letting her catch me breaking every bone in my body again. She worries enough already, and honestly, I don't need the lecture. As for the location, well, technically, training in an open space like a park would be ideal. But apparently, that's illegal. Thanks, Los. You're so helpful. So I'll just do it here at home sweet home. So yeah, that's the plan. Hopefully, luck is on my side because I really don't want to end up in the hospital again. But hey, who needs functioning bones when you've got a quirk like mine? Time to see if I can make it work without turning myself into a walking disaster. I stood in the middle of my room, staring at myself in the mirror. All right, Izuku, I muttered, stretching like this wasn't about to be a disaster waiting to happen. Time to figure this out without becoming a pile of shattered bones and poor decisions. Easy, right? My gaze flicked to my phone on the desk, its screen dark. That stupid AI assistant I programmed better work if things go sideways. Because if I break all my limbs and can't yell loud enough, I'll be stuck lying on the floor like some tragic motivational poster. Failure is just another step to success. I shook my head. No time to overthink it, even though overthinking is basically my brand. I clenched my fists, closed my eyes, and took a deep breath. The plan was simple, Spread the power evenly across my body. Don't overload any one part. Don't break anything. Simple in theory. In practice? Let's just say I wasn't taking any bets. Here we go, I whispered. I flipped the switch in my head, letting the power flow. Instantly, I felt that familiar, overwhelming force surge through me. But this time, I focused on keeping it balanced, spreading it out like I was dividing up a pie, except the pie was pure, bone-snapping strength, and one wrong move would end with me looking like a squashed bug. The power buzzed through my arms, legs, chest, everywhere. It was working. It felt stable. For the first time, I wasn't one big glowing mess of poor life choices. Oh my God, I breathed, staring down at my hands. I'm doing it. I'm actually doing it. And then, because life has a cruel sense of humor, my foot slipped on the edge of my rug. Now, falling isn't usually a big deal. Most people trip, they catch themselves, they move on. Not me. Oh no. I'm Izuku Midoriya, certified human wrecking ball. So, when my foot slid out from under me, my first instinct was to activate more power in my legs to catch myself. Spoiler alert, bad move. The next thing I knew, I was airborne, my supercharged legs having launched me straight into the ceiling. Yes, the ceiling. I hit it hard, leaving a nice crack, sorry mum, before gravity decided to remind me it existed. I crashed back down onto the floor with a very undignified thud. I groaned, staring up at the ceiling. My body was in one piece miraculously, but the ache in my shoulder told me I'd definitely bruised something. Okay, I said to no one in particular, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Fantastic start. Totally nailed it. Literally. I rolled onto my side, wincing as I sat up. All right, note to self, don't panic and overcorrect like an idiot. I grabbed my phone, half expecting to need that emergency call. Luckily, I could still move. Barely. Taking a deep breath, I muttered, "Round 2. Let's see if I can figure this out without wrecking the house this time." I stood up, brushed the dust off my pants, and got ready to try again. Because if there's one thing I'm good at, it's failing spectacularly. And then getting right back up. I stretched my arms, shaking out the tension, and took a moment to stare at the ceiling. The crack wasn't too bad. Think, maybe if I squinted hard enough, I could pretend it wasn't there at all. I made a mental note to figure out how to fix that before Mum got home, or, at the very least, come up with a convincing story. What? The ceiling? Earthquake? Sudden structural failure? Definitely not me. Sighing, I refocused. Oh Izuku, I muttered to myself. No more dumb moves. Slow and steady wins the not breaking your own bones race. I clenched my fists again and let the power flow, this time with more caution. The buzz of energy returned, spreading through me. My muscles tensed, but the balance was better, more even. I took a small step forward, testing the control. No explosions. No disasters. I smiled. Step by step, I practiced moving, focusing on keeping the power steady and not letting it spike. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. For the first time, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I was starting to figure this out. When I finally powered down, I collapsed onto the floor, breathing hard. My muscles ached, and my body felt like I'd run a marathon, but I was still in one piece. Not bad, I said between gasps. Not great, but not bad. I glanced at the crack in the ceiling again and groaned. Definitely not telling Mum about that. For now, though, I'd call it a win. Small victories, right? If nothing else, I hadn't broken every bone in my body this time. And with enough practice, I might even get to a point where I wasn't a walking disaster. Maybe. It was a normal day at the prestigious U.S.J. Well, as normal as it could be considering the announcement of the upcoming UA Sports Festival. A highly anticipated event held every year, the festival gives students from the hero course an opportunity to showcase their abilities in front of pro heroes, who may scout them for future employment. The festival is always a big deal. People scramble for tickets, while many others tune in from the comfort of their homes to watch the spectacle unfold. It was an exciting time. Except Izuku's POV. Sir, may I ask, is it really a good idea to continue with the festival, considering the break-in at the U.S.J? We were just beginning to return to normal, but of course, Ida remained as rigid as ever. We've put a considerable amount of thought into it, Aizawa-sensei answered, his usual deadpan expression in place. Nisa decided it would be best to proceed in order to uphold UA's reputation. I understand your concerns, and I agree that postponing it would make sense, but Nisa's word is final. We will, however, delay it slightly and implement additional security measures. So, don't concern yourself with it. Yes, because nothing says we value student safety like throwing us all into a public arena right after a villain attack. It was good to see Eraserhead back, even if he still looked worse for wear. When he first returned, the class had been in shock. It was hard not to be when he was covered in bandages from head to toe. But despite that, he was well enough to resume teaching, and nothing was going to stop him. Understood. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Aizawa. The sports festival, huh? When I was younger, I dreamed of attending every year. But we never had enough money for tickets, so I settled for watching it on TV. Now that I finally had the chance to participate, I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling. Honestly, I agreed with Ida. If we competed live, it would be like handing the enemy a cheat sheet to our quirks. We got lucky at the U.S.J, but if they studied our abilities, I couldn't guarantee we'd be that fortunate next time. But hey, at least we get to be on TV. What an honor. What's more important, the school's reputation or our lives? Nice to know our safety is less valuable than the prestige of UA. Truly inspiring. Anyway, do what you want now. I'm going to sleep. Don't disturb me or else, Aizawa muttered before settling into his sleeping bag. He really needed a better sleep schedule. Then again, so did I. That was when chaos descended upon us. Students from other classes swarmed the room, as Bakugo so eloquently put it, to scope out the competition. I recognized a few faces, but the most notable was a boy with gravity-defying purple hair, Hitoshi Shinso. Or rather, Hitoshi Aizawa. It had been a while since I'd seen him. Of course, I kept tabs on him. Eraserhead had actually adopted him, and if I didn't already know who Hitoshi's biological parents were, I would have assumed he was Eraser's biological son. No one else knew about the adoption, aside from me and maybe a few teachers. Hitoshi had chosen to keep his last name, likely to avoid unwanted attention. It's true we came to check things out, Hitoshi said, his voice steady and unreadable. But you sure are modest. Are all the kids in the hero course like this one? Bakugo scoffed. Gotta say, I'm a little disillusioned if this is what you're offering. Hitoshi's sharp eyes narrowed slightly. Those of us who didn't make the hero course are stuck in general studies or other departments. There are quite a few of you, did you know that? Not my fault you're all weaklings, Bakugo sneered. Not helping, Bakugo. Hitoshi didn't react to the insult, but the slight twitch of his fingers told me he was restraining himself. I look forward to knocking you into your place during the festival. You know, those who perform well can be transferred into the hero course. I suggest you remember this little meeting. With that, he turned and walked away, the other students following his lead. Bakugo bristled, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. That BSRD. I bit back a smile. Hitoshi did well. I hope he gets in. Eraserhead has been training him, after all. Maybe I should send him a text as Air 0R. If there's anyone I could trust with my secret, he'd be at the top of the list. Good luck, Hitoshi. But today is the day. Unfortunately, I still don't see the point in performing live. Sure, it's for internships and whatnot, but why can't the teachers just decide which hero would suit us best? What's the point of putting on a show for the public? To gain popularity? You can do that when you're actually a hero, you know, saving people. Right now, we don't need the world judging us. It's basically just a flashy performance for the masses. God, I can't believe I used to be excited about this. Just a few months ago, I thought this was the coolest thing ever. But I see the whole festival for what it really is. A free show for the villains. It's practically an open invitation. Come analyze our quirks. Take notes on our weaknesses. Plan accordingly. Everyone except me, of course, is going to be royally screwed. The stadium is already packed, even though we don't start for a while. Do people really think it's that important to be early? It's not like they're the ones competing. Most of my classmates look nervous. Some are excited. Either way, I hope they're prepared for the potential near-death experience awaiting them. Not my problem. Can we just start already? It's getting stuffy with all these people crammed together. Apparently, social distancing isn't a thing in their eyes. Why is Todoroki walking over here? Don't say it. Don't. Just between the two of us, I'm stronger. You managed to get All Might's eyes on you, right? I feel no need to pry into that, but I'm going to beat you. I blame All Might for this. Oh ho? What's this? A declaration from the strongest kid in the class. I hear Pikachu Kaminari commenting in the background. What's with the belligerence all of a sudden? Don't spring this on him right before Kirishima tries to intervene, but honestly, there's no point in talking sense into Todoroki. I'm not here to play nice and make friends. But whatever. Sounds like something Shinso would say. Those two would probably get along. Anyway, can we begin now? Us mere mortals are tired of waiting. Welcome, everyone, to the UA Sports Festival. Blah blah blah. Now for a speech from the first-year representative, Katsuki Bakugo, who placed first in the exams. I can already hear the non-hero course students grumbling about how he only placed first in the hero course exam. And honestly, maybe he can be a representative for our course, but the entire first-year class? Yeah. What's he gonna say? Something stupid but somehow still smart? I just want to say, I'm going to win. Cue the immediate uproar. Boo! Boo! Bakugo, that is unbecoming behavior of a UA student. That got a reaction. As expected. Once the speeches and ceremonies are over, we're all squished into a hallway like a bunch of sardines. The first event? A 4-kilometer race. Not just any race and obstacle course, where quirks are permitted. Of course, the first obstacle isn't even outside. It's the hallway itself. With this many people and quirks going off at once, things are bound to get messy. Are you ready? Go. And we're off. Pushing. Shoving. Quirks flying everywhere. Where's Todoroki? A sudden chill runs down my spine. I look down. A sheet of ice spreads across the ground, freezing people in place. Called it. I jump just in time, barely avoiding getting stuck. Now, time to get out of here. With so many people trapped, it's easier to weave through the chaos. I finally break free from the hallway only to be greeted by our first real obstacle. The giant zero-pointers from the entrance exam. Great. I could try slipping past them, or better yet, let everyone else fight while I sneak by. I know how to control my quirk, but they don't know that yet. And I plan to keep it that way. For now, I'll just have to refrain from breaking bones. At least for a little while. Meanwhile, Todoroki does what Todoroki does best, absolutely ruins everyone's chances. With one stomp, he freezes several villain robots solid. Then, as if that wasn't enough, they collapse, blocking the way for everyone else. And just like that, he's gone. I hate that I respect the strategy. Unfortunately, I still have robots in my way. And since I still don't want to use my quirk, I need to get creative. One of the smaller robots lunges, metal arms swinging. I keep my eyes on it, analyzing its movements. At the last second, I duck, roll, and grab a stray metal plate off the ground. The robot recalibrates and moves forward. Bad move. With one good swing, I slash its head off. And that's how you use brain over brawn. The plate is sturdy, so I keep it as a shield. Now it's time to catch up. Ahead of me, the next challenge appears, a giant canyon with only a few ropes to cross. Fun. Todoroki is already done, obviously. I hop onto a rope, carefully balancing. Behind me, I hear explosions. Great. Bakugo's catching up. I finally reach the other side, and now we're at the last obstacle. Landmines. Everywhere. One wrong step and boom. Todoroki slows down, carefully avoiding them. Bakugo, of course, has zero patience for that and literally blasts himself forward. They're neck and neck now, fighting for first place. Meanwhile, I'm still too far behind. Time for another Midoriya master plan. I place my metal shield down, step onto it, and boom. The explosion sends me flying. I pass Todoroki. I pass Bakugo. And for a brief, glorious moment, I am winning. Their scuffle immediately stops. They look up, completely dumbfounded. I, however, am still losing momentum. Not for long. I slam my plate against the ground, setting off multiple mines at once. The resulting blast sends a giant dust cloud into the air, temporarily blinding Todoroki and Bakugo. And then, I sprint. One last push. One last burst of speed. And then, I cross the finish line. First, Diamin, I'm probably going to regret that in the next round. The crowd, however, erupts. Todoroki stumbles through next, looking absolutely done with everything. Second place. Bakugo crosses right after him, looking about 3 seconds away from committing a crime. Third place. One by one, the others finish. Somewhere in the stands, I hear All Might cheering. It's not like he did anything, can't even teach me how to use the quirk he gave me properly. Somehow I did it. Can I be done for the day or something? How I long to leave. First event down. But knowing my luck, this is only the beginning of my suffering. The second round of the sports festival. A cavalry battle. The big problem? Picking a team. As much as I wanted to team up with Shinso, he only knew me as Air 0R. My absolutely fantastic and not at all suspicious alias. So that was a no-go. And, of course, there was the small issue of me having the 10 million point headband, meaning the entire stadium was basically looking at me like a freshly cooked meal. Fantastic. Time for a little bit of shameful acting. Begging. A strategy Deku would use. Who was my target? The easily persuaded, Uraraka. I sighed, mentally preparing myself. Uraraka, please be on my team. She blinked. Yeah, sure. That was way too easy. Wait, really? I asked. She grinned. Of course. You need someone to help you float, right? I expected to grovel a little, maybe throw in some dramatic pleas. But hey, I wasn't going to complain. That was one down. Now who else? I needed defense. Preferably someone competent. I scanned the field and locked onto Tokoyami. He would be useful. I marched right up to him. Tokoyami, join my team. He crossed his arms. Why should I? You don't seem to have a team, and Dark Shadow would be a good defense. Tokoyami narrowed his eyes in thought. A logical proposal. Very well. I shall join your ranks. Great, I muttered. 2 down, 1 to go. Just as I was about to search for my final teammate, a very familiar voice rang out. Hey, Mr. 1 Million, it's been a while. I turned. Oh, Hatsume. Yeah, it really has been a while. You know, the offer still stands, she said, already stepping way too close. How about I make you a bunch of babies once the festival is done, but you gotta let me be part of your team. That I was too tired for this conversation. You know I don't need any of your babies, I started. Yet, she interrupted. No. Just no. I sighed. But sure, if you want, you can join. Yay. Uraraka, watching this whole exchange, turned to me with wide eyes. Babies? I made the executive decision to ignore her. With my team assembled, we had about 5 minutes to strategize. What was my game plan? Chaos. All right, I said, rubbing my temples. Uraraka, you're our lifeline. If we float, we avoid the worst of the chaos. Tokoyami, Dark Shadow is our shield and counterattack. Hatsume, we'll be making sure my babies help us win. She grinned, already strapping me into some absolutely terrifying mechanical contraption. I frowned. I feel like I should be concerned. You should, Uraraka said, nodding solemnly. The buzzer rang. Game start. And immediately, it was like throwing a pack of wolves into a meat grinder. People charged at us from every direction. Ice, explosions, quirks flying left and right. Monoma was already cackling like a supervillain. Dark Shadow! I called. Dark Shadow roared to life, slamming an entire team away with one swipe. There are but insects before us, Tokoyami muttered, probably feeling way too cool right now. Good. Hatsume grinned. Because now we have turbo mode. Wait, what? Before I could finish, my feet lifted off the ground as Hatsume activated whatever death trap she strapped me into. Uraraka screamed, gripping my shoulders as we rocketed across the battlefield. Why are we moving so fast? I yelled. Innovation. Hatsume cheered. This is not innovation. This is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Tokoyami, despite the absolute insanity, just crossed his arms. The speed of darkness is unmatched. What does that even mean? We barely dodged Todoroki's ice wall, swerved away from a Bakugo explosion, and completely ignored Mineta getting trampled in the distance. Then came the actual problem: Todoroki himself, his cold stare locking onto me like I was a personal insult to his existence. He's coming, Uraraka warned. Oh great, let's add almost dying via half and half to today's agenda, I muttered. Okay, team serious mode. Todoroki raised his hand, and a wave of ice shot toward us. Not today. Dark Shadow lunged forward, smashing through the ice, forcing Todoroki to go on the defensive. For a split second, he hesitated, his eyes flickering toward the stands, where Endeavor was watching. That hesitation? That was our chance. With Uraraka's quirk, we soared over him, flipping midair. And in a single, glorious motion, I snatched a headband off his forehead. Not the 10 million one, but still a solid amount. Ha! I grinned. I'll take it. Todoroki's eyes narrowed. Time's up. The buzzer rang. I panted, staring at my team. Everyone alive. Debatable, Uraraka wheezed. Tokoyami nodded. Victory is ours. Hatsume? She was already halfway across the field, showing my death machine off to the support course, completely ignoring us. I sighed. Never a dull moment. As I glanced around, I saw Bakugo raging in the distance, Todoroki staring at his hand like it had personally betrayed him, and Monoma looking like he was 2 seconds away from throwing an actual tantrum. And I thought to myself, this was only the second round. And it was only going to get worse. The crowd was deafening, a sea of voices cheering as I stepped onto the tournament stage. Honestly, this whole thing was starting to get annoying. I mean, who actually wants to win this? But hey, if I can pick up some useful intel on the way, might as well go through the motions. After all, there's bound to be some juicy gossip floating around. The first match was against Shinso. Now, as much as I like Shinso and that he's still got this vibe that screams misunderstood, which, honestly, I can relate to, I can't just let him win, can I? Although even though he has his mind control quirk, I know all about it. It's all about not talking back. Shinso's smirk was like he knew exactly what he was doing. Must be nice, getting to be in the hero course. I mean, I could let him win, but then I'd have to deal with Todoroki and his weird emotional baggage, so no, not today. I've got bigger things to deal with. You're lucky, Shinso continued, throwing some passive-aggressive jab. Born with a strong quirk, getting everything handed to you. Oh, I really want to let him win now. But I can't. Or can I? Well, that's not exactly. Ugh, the temptation to just let him take control was real. It's like he knew how easy it would be to play me with those words. But this was just too good to pass up. Maybe he'd be a little more cooperative if I let him take a shot at it. Call it an early birthday present. Before I could even process it, my vision blurred. My body froze up like it was under some kind of mind control. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. It was like my brain and body were both on strike. Walk out of bounds, Shinso's voice echoed in my mind. Well, this feels weird. I rated it a solid 9/10 for the strangely trapped experience. If only my body had the decency to stay still instead of obeying like some cheap puppet. I bet Bakugo's losing his mind right now, probably screaming his lungs out or laughing his butt off. Either way, I could practically hear his voice in my head. But then something clicked. A surge of power ran through me like a shock to the system. One for all flared inside, almost like static zapping me awake from a daze. I saw the blurred figures of what seemed like 7, no maybe 8 people. My fingers twitched, a sign of life, and suddenly, I had an opening. Well, it's nice to learn your quirk, you're just starting to get used to may have something completely new. I clenched my fist and snapped, my poor fingers. The fog lifted, and I sprinted toward Shinso. The look on his face was priceless. He clearly hadn't expected me to break free, then again I didn't expect it either. I delivered a punch so solid it sent him flying across the stage. The crowd exploded with cheers and gasps, but I didn't even flinch. I exhaled, dusted myself off. I should apologize for hitting him so hard later. Words are dangerous, but so is my fist. Before my next match, Todoroki approached me. I need to tell you something, he said, his expression as unreadable as ever. Okay. I had no idea where this was going. Have you ever heard of quirk marriages? I knew it was going to be something like this. Todoroki. My father arranged my mother's marriage to him, he began. He sought her out specifically for her ice quirk to create a stronger heir. His voice was steady, but I could hear the bitterness beneath it. I was born for his selfish ambitions. A tool to surpass all might. I had heard of quirk marriages before, but hearing it firsthand, from him it hit different. This wasn't just resentment. This was someone who had been made for a purpose he wanted nothing to do with. My mother. She couldn't take it anymore, he continued. One day, she poured boiling water on my face. That's how I got this scar. I swallowed hard. What am I even supposed to say to that? Endeavor's voice boomed from the stands, full of overbearing parental expectations. Great timing, number 2. Always a pleasure. Todoroki looked at me, his eyes filled with something complicated. I refused to use my left side because it's his power. I hesitated. But it's not his power, it's yours. His fists clenched, but he didn't reply. The conversation ended there, but I knew it wasn't over. It's time for the match. As for me, I plan on getting out round now, and maybe get someone's issues sorted out. And then there was Todoroki. We stood across from each other, the air between us colder than the actual ice about to cover half the arena. His expression was unreadable. He was planning to win this with just his ice because of, well, daddy issues, Pro Hero Edition. I will defeat you with my right side alone, he said, calm as ever. Yeah, okay, Ice Prince, but you do know you have another side, right? Then whoosh, instant glacier. The arena turned into Antarctica. I dodged. Barely. Oh good, an entire iceberg. Classic Todoroki. Really bringing out the creativity. I activated one for all, launching toward him. Another ice wall shot up. I shattered it with a flick of a super-powered finger. And another. And another. Todoroki! I shouted between smashes. You're holding back. That power is yours, not his. His eyes narrowed and then something clicked. His left side, his fire flickered. Flames erupted. A full-powered inferno, swallowing the battlefield in heat and light. The ice melted instantly. I grinned, despite the fact that I was about to get obliterated. Now that's more like it. The stadium gasped. Endeavor looked like he was about to throw a victory parade. Sit down, Fire Lord Ozai, no one's cheering for you. Todoroki stared at his own flames, like he couldn't believe he had actually done it. He hesitated. I used it. Finally. Adrenaline took over. My arms were wrecked, but I powered up one for all for one last clash. I charged. He charged. Ice and fire versus my full power. The explosion that followed sent me flying. My back hit the ground. My vision swam. Midnight's voice echoed, Midoriya is out of bounds. Todoroki advances. I barely registered it. Lying there, I smiled. At least he's finally using his full power. And the best part? I don't have to waste any more energy fighting. At least until patrol tonight. The sports festival is finally over. What a drag. All that effort just for some glorified bragging rights. But hey, at least now I can finally go on patrol. Today's going to be a little different, though. Instead of my usual, super awesome patrol area, totally not just me wandering around pretending I have actual responsibilities, I'm heading to Hosu. Apparently, a certain hero killer is hanging around there. Stain is usually the type to pack up and move once he's racked up a few hero casualties, but word is he's still in town. How convenient. I also heard Ida's brother, Ingenium, was attacked recently. And knowing Ida, he's probably about to make the worst decision of his life during these hero internships. Speaking of internships, a bunch of my classmates got tons of offers. Guess heroes these days are getting desperate. Just one. Grand Torino, a retired pro who used to train All Might. Yeah, totally because of my amazing skills and not because of One for All. Speaking of which, I've increased the percentage I can use. Maybe I should show off during internships. No, wait, even better. If I wait until after and suddenly display insane progress, everyone will freak out and be like, wow, Grand Torino is an amazing teacher. And then he'll be standing there all confused, like, all I did was teach this kid how to not break himself in half. That would be hilarious. But unfortunately, it would mess with my plans. Anyway, tonight I'm going stain hunting. I guess that makes me detergent. Yeah, I think I inhaled too much gas. Earlier, I was testing out ways to improve my weapons, specifically infusing laughing gas into my glitter bombs. Because why just blind your enemies when you can also make them giggle uncontrollably? Actually, I just had a genius idea to catch Stain. I just need Hitoshi to use his quirk on him. Simple, effective, and I even have a pre-made vigilante costume ready for him. Because of course I do. Time to give him a call. Air0R. And Hitoshi, text exchange. Air0R. It's your favorite vigilante. Hitoshi, hi. Air0R. I was wondering if you'd be interested in helping me with something really important. Hitoshi, depends on what. Air0R. A little mission I'm planning for tonight. Hitoshi, maybe. What's in it for me? Air0R. Whatever you want as long as you help me out. Hitoshi, just tell me the location and we'll talk from there. Air0R. Meet me in 30 minutes. Sound good? Hitoshi, deal. Okay, the laughing gas has officially worn off, probably. My plan is perfect. All I need to do now is meet up with Hitoshi. The time skip. I arrive at our meeting spot, a nice, quiet area far enough from his house that Eraserhead won't randomly pop up and ruin everything. Hi, nice to see you made it on time, I greet him. Hi. Anyway, what do you need my help with? Tonight we're catching Stain. He jumps back like I just slapped him. Stain? Oh good, you've heard of him. Why Stain of all people? And why do you need my help? We can trick him using your quirk. Makes things nice and easy. I even prepared a costume for you. You prepared a costume? How do you even know my size? I shrug. Hacking. Medical records. It's not that hard. He stares at me like I've just confessed to a murder. You hacked my medical records? Relax, it's just measurements. So, what are your conditions? He sighs. Fine. 1. If I get hurt, I won't forgive you and I will tell the police. 2. I want to know your identity. 3. Let me be a vigilante too. Oh no. My secret identity. Whatever shall I do? Oh right, I've been dying to tell him anyway. It's not my decision if you can become a vigilante or not, but sure, we got time. Plus, it'd be kinda weird if I was in full vigilante gear on the train. But define, like, if you trip on your own feet, that's not my problem. Hitoshi snorts. Wait, you're actually going to tell me? Yeah. Now follow me. We can't do this in public. I lead him to my house. Mum's working late again. Convenient. Also, if he ever betrays me, which is unlikely, but still, the police will already know where I live, so it's not like I'm revealing that much more. Welcome to my humble home. Please, make yourself comfortable. But first, you need to wear a blndfld for dramatic effect. He rolls his eyes but obliges. I head to the bathroom, take out my contacts, wash my face, and rinse out the cheap hairspray. Then I step out. Surprise! Hitoshi pulls off the blndfld. The look on his face is priceless. Midoriya? Yep. That's me. But, what? Why? Long story short, I was quirkless until the day of the UA entrance exam. His eyes widen. Then, to my absolute horror, tears start streaming down his face. I'm sorry, he says. I said all that stuff to you during the sports festival. You must have had it so much worse. Emotional moment. Panic. Abort mission. As much as I'd love to continue this heart-to-heart, I say quickly, we have a hero killer to catch. We need to get to Hosu. I'll give you your costume, we'll change when we get there. Hitoshi wipes his tears and exhales. Yeah. Let's get going. What a nuisance. At least this should be quick. We almost have him. We just need to find him. The quirk-canceling cuffs dangle from my belt, cool and reassuring against my hip. Shinso is beside me, his disguise perfect if I do say so myself. My fashion skills are peak. Yet, despite our preparations, an uneasy feeling churns in my gut. It can't be this easy. It shouldn't be this easy. Still, here we are. Okay, so you know the plan? I ask, keeping my voice low. Shinso hums, tilting his head. We surprise him with a knock-knock joke? Yep. Have you decided which one you're going to use? He gives me a flat look. Why would I need to actually know what joke I'm going to use? Because you can't just not finish the joke. I'm pretty sure I can just not finish it. I sigh. Fine, have it your way. Anyway, if my intel is correct, he should be right around here. Shinso exhales, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm not ready for this. Well, it's too late to turn back now. We've arrived. A dark figure steps out of the shadows. His crimson scarf shifts slightly in the wind, a sickly contrast against the deep blue of the alley's shadows. His jagged, blood-stained blade glints under the dim streetlights, and even in the dimness, I can see the gleam in his eyes, sharp, predatory. Heroes? His voice is low, gravelly. Perfect. Knock knock. Shinso yells. He swivels. Who's there? And just like that, his entire body goes rigid. His eyes glaze over, the sharp gleam vanishing as his muscles lock in place. Shinso smirks. Well, that was easy. I don't let myself relax just yet. My hands move swiftly, securing the cuffs onto his wrists, ensuring his quirk is useless. The rope follows, binding him tight. No resistance. No struggle. Just like that, the infamous hero killer is ours. I flash a grin. Let's take him to the station, shall we? Dear police, we have captured the one and only Stain. You're welcome. R0R. As we step away from the station, Shinso stretches, rolling his shoulders. What do you want your vigilante name to be? I pause, considering. How about just Mute? It kind of fits with your quirk, and it pairs well with my name. A rare smile tugs at his lips. Sounds awesome. Dear police, we have captured the one and only Stain. You're welcome. R0R. And Mute. Shinso shoves his hands in his pockets, exhaling as we walk. So, same time tomorrow? I nod, grinning. Yeah. Normal area though. And I can train you to help more next time. Oh, and be sure to not have your dads find out or we are in deep trouble. Thanks, I'll be careful, he says, a hint of something softer in his tone. See you tomorrow. Detective Naomesa's POV. I've been chasing R0R for months. A vigilante who operates in the shadows, leaving behind nothing but a calling card usually attached to a neatly wrapped criminal, tied up with a note like some kind of morbid present. The police force has been trying to track him down, but every lead ends in a dead end. He doesn't leave behind fingerprints, security cameras always seem to glitch when he's around, and any eyewitness accounts are wildly inconsistent. One person swears they saw a burly man in a hoodie. Another insists it was a woman in a sleek catsuit. My personal favorite is the old lady who claimed she saw a floating, sentient error message. The only thing we know for sure is his alias, R0R. And now there's a second one. Another vigilante working alongside him. Because of course, one unregistered hero wasn't enough. I pinch the bridge of my nose as I stare at the latest report sitting on my desk. The words practically mock me. Dear police, we have captured the one and only Stain. You're welcome. R0R. And Mute. My head is pounding. Stain. The infamous hero killer, a man responsible for multiple high-profile murders, one of the most dangerous criminals in Japan, and these two just casually delivered him to us like it was nothing. Aizawa leans over my desk, scanning the note with tired eyes. Well, he says, deadpan, at least they're polite. I give him a flat look. Aizawa, they caught Stain. Before us. He shrugs. You're the detective. Detect. I groan and lean back in my chair, staring up at the ceiling. The worst part? I can't even be mad. These vigilantes, whoever they are good. They don't kill, they don't leave collateral damage, and their arrests are clean. Hell, they're cleaner than official hero captures. No destroyed buildings. No civilian casualties. Just a neatly wrapped criminal with a smug little note left behind. The problem? They're still vigilantes. It doesn't matter how effective they are. It doesn't matter if they're technically helping. It's illegal. And the longer they continue operating outside the law, the harder it'll be to control the consequences. I sigh and flip the note over in my hand, running my thumb over the ink. Mute, I mutter. A new vigilante. Izawa hums. I wonder who Air-Zero are. Could have possibly gotten to be their partner. I'd feel sorry for Mute to have to deal with them. I shoot him a look. You sound like you admire them. I admire their efficiency, he corrects, rubbing his eyes. But they're still a pain. I glance back at the evidence board on the wall. A messy collage of blurry images, conflicting reports, and way too many sarcastic notes left behind at crime scenes. I thought I was beginning to understand Air-Zero are. But now there's another piece to the puzzle. And at the very least, Stain's arrest comes at a convenient time. Internships are just around the corner, meaning students will soon be leaving campus to train under heroes. With the hero killer out of commission, that's one less threat to worry about. At least for now, UA students are safe. I only wish I could say the same for my sanity. The sun hung high over Mizudafu, casting warm light over the bustling city. Most students were either relaxing or preparing for their upcoming internships, but in the forgotten corners of the city, two figures moved with purpose. In a secluded alleyway, two silhouettes stood beneath the overhang of a fire escape. One wore a hoodie, green curls peeking out from underneath. The other had his hands shoved in his pockets, lilac hair messy as always, violet eyes sharp and alert. Shinso POV. I wasn't entirely sure how I got roped into this. You sure about this, Midoriya? I asked, skepticism clear in my voice. Izuku Midoriya grinned, adjusting the black scarf wrapped loosely around his neck. Yep. If you really want to do this, you need to know how to handle yourself in situations that aren't the deal. Rules don't always apply in the real world, and hero work isn't all flashy entrances and dramatic speeches. I exhaled, glancing around. I'd always suspected that Midoriya had more going on beneath his nerdy, all-might-loving exterior, but I hadn't expected this. So last night did happen, I muttered. It took me a while to process. Izuku smirked. Yep, and we are going to do this every night from now on. At least you won't fall asleep, you insomniac. I smirked back. He had no right to call me that when he probably got even less sleep than I did. All right, Izuku clapped his hands together. Lesson 1, Stealth. We're gonna work on getting in and out of places unseen. You might have brainwashing, but if someone spots you before you get a command in, it's game over. We were training, when I mean we I. Apparently I need to learn a few skills first. At least my dads think I'm hanging out with some friends. Which isn't actually a lie, to be honest. I folded my arms. I'm not exactly built for sneaking around. Izuku snorted. Neither am I, but here we are. Without warning, he took off. Try to catch me, he called over his shoulder. I blinked. Are you serious? He didn't answer. With a sigh, I followed. I wasn't as physically trained as most hero students, but I was fast enough. I trailed after him, weaving through narrow alleys and side streets, following the occasional sound of footsteps or a flash of movement. Then silence. I stopped, scanning the bright surroundings. There was no sign of Midoriya anywhere. Midoriya? I called. No response. Where did he go? I took a few careful steps forward, only to feel a hand clamp onto my shoulder from behind. I whirled around, but before I could react, Izuku was already stepping back, hands in his pockets, grinning. I scowled. How the hell did you? You were focusing on where I was, he explained, not where I could be. Rookie mistake. I ran a hand through my hair, exasperated. This is stupid. No, it's training, he corrected. Come on, try again. For the next hour, we went back and forth, me improving little by little. I learned to use shadows to my advantage even in the daylight, how to control my breathing, how to anticipate movement instead of just reacting. Finally, exhausted, I leaned against a brick wall, panting. This is so much harder than I thought. Izuku sat beside me, stretching out his legs. Yeah, it's a different way of thinking. But you're getting better. Less like a lost puppy now. I gave him a dry look. Great. Next time, teach me how to jump through windows like a lunatic too. Izuku gasped dramatically. I would never. Thought okay, maybe once or twice. The air was warm, the chatter of pedestrians in the distance. Muzutafu was wide awake, but here, in the quieter corners of the city, we kept moving. I pushed myself off the wall, rolling my shoulders. All right, what's next? Izuku perked up, clearly pleased by my determination. Lesson 2, Disguises and Deception. I quirked a brow. I'm not exactly the type to blend in. Izuku smirked. That's why you need to learn how to change the way people perceive you. It's not just about wearing a mask, it's about acting different. For the next lesson, we entered a convenience store, testing how well we could blend in. I mimicked Izuku's subtle shifts in posture and presence, learning to appear inconspicuous. The store clerk barely even glanced at us. As we left the store, Izuku stretched. All right, last lesson for today. I rubbed my temple. You're seriously cramming 3 lessons into one day? Izuku grinned. Time is a resource. Use it wisely. I sighed. Let me guess, fighting dirty? Izuku gave me finger guns. Bingo! That got my attention. You already know how to fight in a controlled environment, he continued. But fights in the real world? There's no rules, no countdowns. If someone wants to take you down, they won't fight fair. So you need to be able to adapt. My lips curled into a slow grin. Now this sounds interesting. Izuku mirrored my grin. All right then, come at me. We sparred, exchanging quick moves. Izuku taught me to fight unpredictably using distractions, feints, and dirty tricks to keep an opponent off balance. By the end, both of us were breathing heavily. I wiped my forehead. I'll admit, this was actually useful. Izuku smirked. Told you. As we started walking back toward the safer streets, I glanced at him. You ever think about doing this instead of being a hero? Vigilante stuff. His smile faltered for just a second. Sometimes. I didn't press, but I understood. The city stretched on ahead of us, 2 secret allies walking side by side, the daylight casting long shadows at our feet. It was finally time for internships, basically doing my nighttime hobby legally during the day. But honestly, I needed the break. School had been getting on my nerves. The constant noise, the dumb questions, Bakugu's perpetual yelling, and Mineta being. Mineta. I understood Aizawa now. Guy looked tired because he was tired of people. My placement? Grand Torino. A retired pro hero that All Might trained under. Sounded promising. Plus, All Might actually recommended him, which was rare considering how useless he was at actually teaching. Don't get me wrong, he's the symbol of peace and all, but as a teacher? I expected an old, wise mentor. Maybe someone strict but noble. What I got was ketchup. All over the floor. The figure lying in it. Seriously? He just lay there, twitching slightly like a haunted raisin. Sir? I asked cautiously. Are you all right? Also, are you Grand Torino? He perked up immediately like someone had hit the power button. Oh, I dropped a big plate of sausages covered in ketchup and took a tumble. Clumsy me. Sure, Grandpa. Real convincing. Totally not testing me or anything. I'm Izuku Midoriya, from UA High School. Huh? Seriously? Izuku Midoriya. What was that? Speak up, boy. This man was going to kill me. Not physically, mentally. Emotionally. My patience was already fraying. Then suddenly he stood up. Why don't you fire off a one-for-all smash at me? I want to see what you can do. Now we're getting somewhere. Is it safe? Indoors. He bounced on his feet like a pinball. Show me what you've got. I took a breath. Powered 1 for all through my body. 5%. I could handle more, but we were still inside, and I didn't want to destroy the place. Grand Torino lunged, faster than I expected. I barely dodged. I started bouncing too quick footwork, fluid movement. He was surprised, I could tell. He tried to hide it, but I knew the look. I missed the first strike, but landed the second. The house was wrecked. You can use that power after all, he muttered. Did All Might actually teach you something? I tried not to scoff. Oh. I trained on my own and got to this level. Grand Torino gave a hum, something almost like approval. Toshinori picked a good candidate after all. Maybe don't say that out loud, thanks. Then he casually said, we're going out on patrol. Hurry up, we don't have all day. Also, we need a new microwave. I grinned. I've been waiting for this all day. The city looked different in daylight. I wasn't used to seeing it this clearly while doing hero work. Usually, it was me creeping across rooftops in the dark, dressed in darker colors instead of green, chasing down leads and saving people without permission. Being a vigilante meant no heroes, no thanks, no legality, but it also meant freedom. So this daylight heroing thing? It was weird. Legal but weird. Grand Torino was waddling ahead, scarf flapping, eyes sharp. The man didn't look like much, but he moved like a ghost with a jetpack. Keep your eyes open, he muttered. You've got instincts. Use them. I did. But it was hard to focus when every part of me wanted to sneak around instead of walk beside an elderly man looking for both criminals and microwaves. We passed by an alley and something pricked at my senses. Wait, I whispered. Something feels wrong. Grand Torino raised a brow. Wrong like someone's watching, or wrong like you're about to pass gas? Yes, sir. But I was already moving. One for all thrumming in my legs, I dashed into the alley. There a woman being dragged away by some creep in a hoodie. The guy didn't even hesitate, just shoved her into a wall and turned to face me. You a hero? You could say that. I'm a UA student, I said, flexing my fingers. And you're making a mistake. Before he could blink, Grand Torino shot in like a missile and planted a boot straight into the guy's face. He crumpled. I checked on the woman, just bruises, scared but okay. You all right? She nodded, shaking. Thank you. Grand Torino was already on the phone. Police are on their way. You did good, kid. I felt it again, that weird conflict. That part of me that wanted to vanish before the cops got here. Vigilante habits die hard. We walked her to the nearest station and gave a clean report. Luckily, I'm extra careful when it comes to my disguise when vigilanting. Back on the street, Grand Torino stuffed a dorayaki in his mouth. Let's go get that microwave. You serious? Dead serious. My sausages deserve better. I felt something shift in the air. A distant tremor. Screams. Shattering glass. We turned as a villain came into view. Massive. Shark mask. Swinging a pipe around like he was in a demolition derby. Tag, you're it, he bellowed. Yikes, I muttered. Real subtle. Grand Torino glanced at me. You stay back. But, observe. You want to learn? Shut up and watch. And he was gone. He bounced, struck, vanished, repeated. The villain couldn't lay a finger on him. It was like watching a living pinball of doom. But I saw it the moment the villain overextended his swing. Instincts kicked in. I dashed in with 5% one for all and shoulder-checked him just enough to knock him off balance. Grand Torino followed with a spinning kick. Game over. The villain hit the ground. Grand Torino raised an eyebrow. Didn't I tell you to stay back? Sorry, I said sheepishly. Reflexes. Nice timing. Wait, was that a compliment? You've got some nerve, he added. You ever act like that on your own without permission? What? No. Never. He narrowed his eyes for a second. Not gonna catch me, old man. Let's tie him up and call the cops before the press shows up. As we worked, I kept glancing over my shoulder. Because if anyone had looked close enough, if anyone connected the movements, the style, the reflexes, they'd know that I wasn't just a student. Luckily, there is probably only one person who could probably find me out. And that was Aizawa. Patrolling in the light was exhausting. Patrolling in the dark was worse. And living in the space between? That might be the thing that destroys me. Okay, so maybe today wasn't going to be my day. Scratch that. It definitely wasn't going to be my day. Because out of every possible person I could be paired with for this practical exam, the universe looked down at me, shrugged, and said, "You know what'd be funny? Bakugo." And because apparently I was cursed in a past life or stepped on a shrine or something, here we are. Alright, students. Present Mike was practically screaming over the speakers like this was a WWE match. For this match, Midoriya Izuku and Bakugo Katsuki versus All Might. All Might, like the symbol of peace, Mr. 1000-watt smile, can punch a hurricane for fun. That All Might. Cool. I definitely wasn't internally screaming. Nope. Totally fine. And of course, Bakugo was already snarling like a feral raccoon someone poked with a stick. The guy was practically vibrating with the need to blow something up. Big surprise. I crossed my arms and sighed dramatically. Hopefully no one is to pay much attention to me. Listen, Kaken, I started trying to be the bigger person, the hero, the rational mind of this psychotic duo because apparently that was my job. We should come up with a plan. I don't need your demon plans, Deku. Bakugo growled, explosions crackling at his palms. And there it is. The usual. Kaken's emotional stability, 0-10, would not recommend. Honestly, if I had a yen for every time he tried to murder me with zero provocation, I could afford my own personal all-might bodyguard. But fine. If he wanted to go full gremlin mode, then by all means. Okay, sure, I said, my voice so sweet it could give cavities. Run in headfirst and die. Great strategy. I'll let your ghost know how the exam turns out. He snarled something incoherent back, probably another creative death threat. Honestly, I'd heard them all by now. I think last week he promised to shove my notebook down my throat and then make it explode. 10 points for creativity, 0 for practicality. And then the gates opened. And there stood All Might, smiling, like he didn't just agree to legally beat up 2 teenagers for a final grade. God, I need a raise. Oh wait, I'm not even getting paid for this. All right, boys. All Might boomed, flexing because of course he did. Show me what you've got. Well, what I've got is trauma and a caffeine addiction, but okay. 5 minutes later, I was dodging a punch that could have flattened a small country, flipping through the air like a goddamn circus acrobat, because Bakugo had shocker gone off alone, got his sheet rocked, and now All Might was coming for me like I owed him money. Note to self, when this is over, tell recovery girl you're gonna need the good ice packs. All right, think Midoriya, I muttered under my breath. Plan A, survive. Plan B? Plan C, profit. I darted behind a building, peeking around the corner like one of those spy movie idiots who inevitably gets caught. God, I'm one bad quip away from being a Marvel character. Then out of nowhere Bakugo slammed into the wall next to me, leaving a crater the size of my self-worth. TC, BSDRD strong, he spat. What? No sheet, Sherlock. Did the 40-foot punch give it away? I sighed again. Real long. Real dramatic. I was gonna make a hobby out of sighing at this rate. Look, Kaken, unless you plan on growing 3 extra arms and developing a quirk that lets you turn into a tank, you're gonna need my help. He glared at me like I'd just insulted his mother. Which, to be fair, she scares me so I would never. But then, miracle of miracles, he grunted, fine. Holy shit. It's a Christmas miracle. I almost wanted to check the sky for flying pigs. We hashed out a plan in like 30 seconds, because any longer and he'd probably change his mind and start throwing hands again. And then we went for it. Teamwork. Sort of. If teamwork was a dumpster fire, but at least both of you were aiming at the same target. And you know what? We didn't win. But we passed. And sometimes that's enough. When the dust settled, and All Might was giving us his signature thumbs up, I collapsed against a wall, letting out a long, exhausted groan. Keeping secrets is hard. Note to self, I muttered. Next time, fake an injury and call in sick. It was a crisp night only a few days away from the training camp. Izuku, otherwise known as Air Zero R, leapt from rooftop to rooftop alongside his vigilante partner in crime, Hitoshi, also known as Mute. They'd patrolled together plenty of times by now. It was easier with Hitoshi around, even if they avoided using his quirk unless absolutely necessary. They only used it in emergencies to wipe the memory of witnesses if things got too close. Tonight was like any other. So far, they'd caught 5 criminals since patrol began. The crime rate had dropped sharply in this area lately. Aizawa Eraserhead had been patrolling more often, probably in preparation for the camp since he wouldn't be able to keep watch during it. They'd run into him a few times, which had resulted in one very grumpy hero covered in glitter. It had been hilarious, especially since the glitter had clung to his hair and wouldn't come out. He'd shown up to school the next day still sparkling. They were almost through the entire rainbow by now. Next up was Pink. It would definitely stick. It was an ordinary night. Until it wasn't. A girl, no older than 6, stood barefoot in the alley below them. Her hospital gown was soaked in blood. Bandages wrapped around her arms and legs like makeshift restraints. Her eyes were wide, empty. It was no longer an ordinary night. Izuku's POV. The night air was cool, fresh, nice, really. It had been a while since we'd had such good weather on patrol. Fewer criminals than usual, too. I should be relieved, right? But something about that. It feels like the calm before the storm. Like something's coming. And I hate not knowing what. Then I saw her, a young girl no older than 6, bandages and a gown, blood. There is a million things wrong with this picture. My boots hit the ground and Hitoshi landed beside me a beat later, smooth as ever. I didn't wait, I darted forward, hands raised like I was approaching a stray cat with trust issues. Hey there, tiny bean, I said, keeping my voice light. Name's Air Zero R. We are here to help. She flinched at my voice. Her eyes were wide, terrified, scanning for escape routes. I slowed, lowered myself to her eye level. And that's when I saw it, the blood, the gauze, the shivering. The unmistakable signs of someone who'd been hurt. Badly. She looks like she came out of a horror movie, Hitoshi murmured behind me. The real kind, not the budget kind. Yeah, well, welcome to tonight's feature film, I muttered. Starring, literal child trauma. I took a breath. Can you tell me your name, sweetheart? Her lips moved. A whisper. Barely audible. Eri. And just like that, the air went cold. I froze. Hitoshi stiffened beside me. Oh, we knew that name. We had recently interrogated one of Overhaul's men, one who had been a part of a certain project involving a little girl and quirk erasing bullets. A girl with a rewind quirk. One locked up by Overhaul as some living science project. I stood slowly, fury lighting a fire in my chest. All right, I said, voice tight. Plot twist, we're stealing a kid tonight. Hitoshi blinked. You make it sound so noble. It is noble, I hissed, already shrugging off my hoodie and wrapping it around her shoulders. It's called rescuing, thank you very much. Hero work but make it illegal. He snorted. Just saying, this isn't exactly the easiest task. I mean, what are we going to do with her? Yeah, well, we took down Stain with a knock-knock joke, so think of this as free babysitting. He didn't argue. Because I was already picking her up light as a feather, way too light, and scanning the shadows for movement. Let's bounce, I said, before someone real ugly shows up looking for their science experiment. Third POV. It all happened fast. One moment they were crouched beside the trembling girl in the alley, trying not to startle her, the next footsteps. Slow, deliberate. And a voice that made Izuku's stomach drop like a lead weight. Eri. Make sure you hold on tightly. Izuku didn't wait. Hitoshi. Grab her, go. Hitoshi didn't hesitate. Eri was scooped into his arms before she could scream, and they were off leaping rooftop to rooftop, ducking down narrow fire escapes, breathing hard but quiet. The night swallowed their footsteps, and the city lights blurred behind them. Overhaul didn't follow, not yet. They didn't stop until they were several districts away. Eri had fallen asleep somewhere along the way, her small fists clutching Hitoshi's hoodie. Izuku exhaled and motioned toward a quiet side street. My place, he whispered. Only safe bet right now. Hitoshi gave him a sharp look, but nodded once. Sneaking a traumatized 6-year-old into your house past midnight wasn't on Izuku's usual to-do list, but here they were. Inko was asleep, TV still flickering quietly downstairs. Izuku signaled for Hitoshi to wait by the door while he tiptoed up the stairs, each one a death trap of potential creaks. He cracked his bedroom door open and gave a silent prayer that his floor wouldn't betray him. Room secured. He rushed back, waved Hitoshi up, and together they brought Eri inside. She stirred slightly but didn't wake. Izuku quietly shut the door, locked it, and turned around, hands on hips. "Well, that was terrifying," he whispered. "And my back still hurts from the third jump. Next time, you carry her." Hitoshi didn't dignify that with a response, but the flat look he gave said enough. They gently laid Eri down on Izuku's bed, tucking her in with an old all-mic blanket. She looked tiny under it, but no longer shaking. Finally, Izuku took one of his oversized hoodies and bundled it around her like an extra pillow. Then he handed Hitoshi a protein bar. "That's all we've got unless you want to try your luck in the kitchen. And wake up my mum. And get killed." Hitoshi raised a brow, peeled the wrapper, and handed half to Izuku. They sat on the floor, backs against the wall, watching the quiet rise and fall of Eri's chest. "We can't keep her here forever," Izuku whispered eventually. "My mum's nosy. Loving but nosy." Hitoshi nodded, lowering his voice. "What if we take her to UA? At least until this is dealt with." Izuku squinted at him. "It could work, and it's more than likely that Aizawa will take her, in meaning she will live with you. That way we can keep an eye on her." "It's safer than here," Hitoshi said with a shrug. Izuku sighed. "Yeah, alright. We'll take her out for a bit tomorrow, then drop her off." They both glanced at Eri again, asleep and small. "I hate this," Izuku muttered. "She's 6. And she looked at us like we were gonna hit her." Hitoshi's jaw tensed, eyes dark. Izuku let the silence hang for a moment before adding, more quietly, "I'm gonna kill that bee." He meant it. But for now, they had to be smart. Overhaul wasn't gone. And Eri wasn't safe, not yet. Izuku stood, stretched, and looked down at the two most important people in the world right now, his quiet, purple-haired partner, and the girl who didn't deserve any of this. "All right," he said. "Operation Keep Eri Safe has officially begun." The sun rose far too early for two vigilantes who hadn't slept. Eri was still curled up under the all-might blanket, clutching Izuku's hoodie like it was a lifeline. Izuku rubbed at his eyes, already formulating 100 excuses. Hitoshi stood up. "Going home. If my dad wakes up and I'm not there, I'll be dead. Meet you in 2 hours." Izuku nodded. "Yeah, good call. Go be a sickly child." With a wave, Hitoshi slipped out the window like some dramatic raccoon. Hitoshi climbed through his bedroom window, still dressed in his purple and black vigilante gear, glitter from last week's prank patrol still faintly on his shoes. He quickly swapped into a hoodie and pajama pants, flopped into bed, and coughed once for authenticity. 10 minutes later, Yamada popped his head in. "Yo, kiddo? You alright?" "Head hurts," Hitoshi croaked. Yamada gave him a thumbs up and a dramatic gasp. "The curse of the Monday strikes again. Take it easy, bud." Aizawa's voice drifted in from down the hall. "He's fine to stay home. He probably faked it." "I heard that," Hitoshi yelled, before flopping back and texting Izuku. "All clear. Be there in 30. Izuku had stashed Eri under his bed. It wasn't ideal, but it was safe, and she hadn't woken up yet. She blinked sleepily up at him when she finally stirred. Hey, you're okay," he whispered. "My mom's just making breakfast. We'll eat later, promise." Eri didn't speak, but nodded and crawled back under the blanket. Inko knocked and came in a second later. "Sweetie, you look pale. Are you feeling all right?" Izuku dramatically flopped sideways on the bed. "I've got a headache. I don't think I can go to school today. I really want to go, but I don't want to be sick during camp." She sighed but smiled. All right. Call me if it gets worse. I'll be home by 5. As soon as she left, Izuku whipped open the closet. "Hey, Eri, we're getting you a disguise. It's called a hat. And possibly sunglasses. Let's go." An hour later, Hitoshi was back, a backpack slung over one shoulder and a surgical mask on to hide any chance of being recognized. His hair was also forced down and colored black. Eri walked between them, tucked into one of Izuku's hoodies with the sleeves rolled a dozen times. They hit a corner store and a second-hand shop nearby. Clothes, toiletries, snacks. Eri didn't say much, but she held Izuku's hand the whole time. They also stopped for a treat. Eri had a candy apple, and her face was glowing as though it was the best thing in the entire world. Late afternoon, they approached the UA front gates. They didn't dare go too close. Izuku crouched and looked Eri in the eyes. "Hey, little one. There are people in there who will protect you. You don't have to be scared anymore. Not while we're around, yeah?" Eri hesitated, then nodded. Izuku handed Hitoshi the note. "Her name is Eri. She's hurt and scared, and someone's trying to get her back. We will deal with it, but look after her for us. R0R. And mute. P.S. She likes apples, especially candy ones." They walked her to the gate, watched until a teacher noticed her, then disappeared into the shadows as someone ran over. From afar, they saw Aizawa kneel beside her. His eyes scanned the perimeter, suspicious, maybe knowing. But he didn't call out. He simply read the note before picking Eri up and carried her inside. Izuku exhaled for what felt like the first time all day. "She's safe," he murmured. Hitoshi nodded once. "Now let's keep it that way." It was almost the end of the school day, meaning they had to make a plan quickly. A plan in order to take down Kai Chisaki, otherwise known as Overhaul, the leader of the Shai Hasaikai. There were multiple ways to do this. Unfortunately, they were vigilantes, so they had to do this without attracting too much attention. In the end, it all came down to one option: Aizawa Eraserhead. Izuku POV. It was almost the end of the school day. Or, it would have been if we were actually there. But we weren't. Both Hitoshi and I had called in sick, staying home under the excuse of some sudden sickness. Which, in a way, wasn't a lie. We were sick of waiting. My living room had become our unofficial base of operations for the past few hours. The air smelled faintly of old tea, pencil shavings, and stress. Scattered across the coffee table were blueprints I'd printed out, slightly curled from the heat of the printer. Photos were pinned to the wall with thumbtacks and taped across the sides of my desk. Chisaki, the Shai Hasaikai compound, the people he kept around him like shields. And in the center of it all, like the eye of a storm, was a small picture of Eri. It was a good thing that I could find all this information. "We don't have a lot of options left," I said finally, breaking the silence as I leaned over the mess, tracing the entry points with my finger. "And we're on a tight clock. The longer we wait, the more dangerous things could get." Hitoshi was sitting on the floor, back against the wall, arms resting on his knees. He looked exhausted but still sharp. "Still with me? You're sure this is the only way?" he asked. "Yeah. If it were just Chisaki, maybe we could get away with it ourselves. But it's not. He's got the whole gang around him, and we can't risk getting outnumbered before we even reach Eri. That's where Aizawa comes in. If he can shut down their quirks long enough, we move in fast, use the cuffs, and take Chisaki down." "Right. The cuffs," he muttered. "Still can't believe we actually got those." "I have my methods," I said, trying not to sound too proud. "Stole them, didn't you?" "Borrowed permanently," I corrected, then added, "from someone who wasn't using them responsibly." That got a twitch of a smile from him, but it didn't last long. The weight of what we were planning was sinking in more and more with each breath. "And what if he finds out?" Hitoshi said quietly. "Aizawa, it's bad enough we're dragging a pro-hero into vigilante territory, but he's my dad." "That's only if he finds out," I said. "We'll keep things tight. We get in, we get Eri, we get out. To him, it's just the usual vigilantes he knows and loves. He won't even have time to ask questions." "Unless something goes wrong," Hitoshi said. I didn't answer that part. We both knew the risk. There was no point pretending otherwise. Instead, I reached beneath the couch cushion and pulled out a black burner phone. It was still in the plastic wrap, untouched. A failsafe. We hadn't planned to use it unless we had to. Time to get ourselves an ally. He reached for it, but I didn't let go. "Not yet. Wait, I should do the typing." He raised an eyebrow at me. Why? Because you're terrible at this stuff. Your last attempt at subtlety had all the finesse of a car alarm. Let me handle it. Okay, rude, he muttered but backed off. Fine. Be my guest. I sat down on the edge of the couch, thumbed open the burner phone, and went to the messages. The number was already programmed in under a plain, harmless contact name. Dadzawa. Like it was nothing. Like this wasn't something that could blow everything up. I hovered over the keys for a moment. Then, slowly started typing. It's your favorite two vigilantes. I'm sure you saw our little gift earlier. You see, a group named Shai Hasaikai had little Eri and used her to make quirk erasing bullets. You see, we plan on taking them down tonight, but we need your help unfortunately. Meet us at 10 p.m., don't involve anyone else. P.S. To prove it is us, just know that pink glitter is next. R0R. And mute. I tilted the screen so Hitoshi could read it before sending. He stared at it in silence, then gave a single nod. I hit send. We waited. The moment stretched, each second ticking by louder in my head than the clock on the wall. Then finally, the phone buzzed. I'll be there. Don't do anything stupid. That's him, I said, leaning back. He's got a sixth sense for trouble, Hitoshi muttered. Good thing we're practically swimming in it. He stood, brushing himself off and grabbing his bag from where it leaned against the wall. I should get going. If I'm not home by the time school ends, he'll start putting things together. Yeah, and you know he will. He's like, scarily good at that. Tell me about it. I walked him to the door. Just before he stepped out, he paused. You'll text me if anything changes? Of course. You'll get a full debrief the moment it gets interesting. He rolled his eyes. Don't be cocky. I grinned faintly. Too late. With a final nod, he slipped out the door and disappeared down the hall. I stood there for a second longer, listening to his footsteps fade. Then I closed the door and turned back to the battlefield that was my living room. Papers. Plans. Purpose. It was happening. Time to gear up. Time for Operation Overhaul. Izuku POV. The sun had just dipped beneath the horizon, casting the world in deep shades of blue and purple, the shadows stretching long across the beach. The night air was thick, cool and salt-tinged, whispering through the trees and over the rippling ocean. It felt like the calm before the storm, the kind of silence that only came before something huge. This was it. Kai Chisaki's reign of terror was about to end. And honestly, I was ready. I stood there on the edge of the beach, the crashing waves providing a rhythmic backdrop to the tension in the air. My breath was steady, but my heart was thundering with anticipation. Every muscle in my body felt like it was on edge, every nerve alive, ready to spring into action at the slightest provocation. This wasn't just any mission, this was the one that would finally bring Chisaki down. And I wasn't about to screw it up. The cold nipped at my exposed skin, but I barely noticed. The only thing on my mind was one thing. Chisaki was going down tonight. Everything else? It could wait. I checked my watch. 10 p.m. The plan was simple. The team was in place. Aizawa was supposed to arrive any minute now, and when he did, we would take Chisaki by surprise. Fast, clean, no mistakes. Easy, right? I caught a flicker of movement from the corner of my eye. A figure emerged from the darkness, moving like a shadow, the outline of Hitoshi's lean frame clear against the moonlight. He was here. You sure about this? Hitoshi's voice broke the silence, low and cautious, his eyes scanning the beach with sharp precision, as though he expected danger to jump out from behind every corner. I glanced over at him, raising an eyebrow. I had known Hitoshi long enough to read the wariness in his tone. But there was something else there too. Concern, maybe? He didn't want to see anyone, especially not Aizawa, get hurt tonight. I couldn't blame him for that. Why wouldn't I be? I said, the words slipping out easy, though I could feel the rush of adrenaline bubbling under my skin. We've planned for this. We've trained for this. And I'm ready. You sure you're ready? Hitoshi sighed, rubbing the back of his neck, eyes still trained on the horizon. Yeah, but it's still risky. We're dragging Aizawa into this. If something goes wrong, we could be exposed. Stop overthinking it, I muttered, checking the perimeter once more. The air felt still, almost too still. The only sound was the crash of the waves. It felt like the world was holding its breath. We go in, take him down, get out. Easy peasy. Aizawa handles the distractions. We do what we do best. Hitoshi's gaze flicked to mine, a mixture of concern and frustration, but he didn't argue. He knew as well as I did that this was the only option. We couldn't let Chisaki get away with it any longer. The faintest light appeared over the horizon, casting long shadows across the sand. It was him. Aizawa. Finally, I muttered to myself. Aizawa appeared from the shadows like a ghost, quiet, efficient, his presence heavy with authority. He didn't waste a second scanning the area, his sharp eyes taking in everything in an instant. He looked at us, expression unreadable. "You're late," I teased, my voice dripping with sarcasm as I gave him a quick glance. Aizawa didn't flinch. His eyes narrowed and he shot me a flat look. "I'm here. Now during this little mission don't do anything stupid." "Just keeping things lively," I said, a smirk tugging at my lips. Hitoshi shot me a look that clearly said, "You're impossible," but I could see the faintest smirk at the corner of his mouth too. Aizawa didn't engage with the banter. His eyes flicked to the map Hitoshi was holding out to him, then back to us. "Let's move." We didn't need any more words. We slipped into the shadows and started moving like we had done 100 times before, quiet, swift, blending in with the darkness. The world around us seemed to disappear. The cool night air brushed past us as we navigated the terrain, the sound of our footsteps muted by the thick sand beneath our boots. We were close now. Aizawa's quirk rendered the guards useless before they even had time to blink. He moved like a shadow, precise and fast. I couldn't help but feel a thrill at how effortless he made it look. Meanwhile, Hitoshi and I were already ahead, skirting past more guards, slipping into dark hallways and rooms with barely a whisper. Every corner, every hallway was just another obstacle to maneuver, another opportunity to get closer. I grinned to myself. Chisaki had no idea what was coming. The final stretch. I could feel the tension in the air growing thicker as we neared the heart of the compound. Aizawa gave us the signal. Time to go in. I didn't need any more encouragement. The door burst open with a sharp crack, and there he was, Chisaki, sitting like a king behind his desk, surrounded by his 8 elite guards, his cold eyes narrowing as we entered. The air in the room seemed to freeze, and for a moment, it felt like the world stopped spinning. Chisaki's voice cut through the silence, icy and contemptuous. "Who are you?" His hand twitched, already ready to pull the trigger. I stepped forward, the moonlight catching the edge of my mask. "Who am I? You really want to know?" My voice dripped with sarcasm as I took a few slow, deliberate steps into the room, my footsteps echoing louder than usual. "I'm the guy who's about to ruin your whole empire, Chisaki. Congratulations, the party's over." A low growl escaped him as he stood, his form already beginning to contort, hardening as his quirk activated. "You think you can stop me?" His voice was a cold sneer, but it faltered just a fraction, a sign of the crack in his facade. "I've spent years building this empire. You're nothing." I almost rolled my eyes. Great, another villain speech. How original. I glanced at him with exaggerated boredom, hands in my pockets. "Newsflash, buddy, your empire's crumbling. And I'm the wrecking ball." Before he could respond, Aizawa's quirk activated, his eyes flashing with intent. The moment his quirk hit, Chisaki's body froze, unable to activate his quirk. The rest of us wasted no time. I grinned, pulling out a pair of specially designed quirk-canceling cuffs, slipping them onto Chisaki's wrists. The cuffs clicked into place, rendering him utterly powerless. His eyes went wide with shock. Then I added a couple cuffs for safety. "Surprise, Chisaki," I said, a mockingly sweet tone in my voice. Before he could regain any semblance of composure, Hitoshi stepped forward with a gleam in his eye. He tossed a glitter bomb right at Chisaki's face. It burst on impact, releasing a shower of sparkling glitter that coated the villain from head to toe. The absurdity of it made me snicker. Chisaki was stunned, his earlier venomous glare replaced with confusion and frustration. He sputtered, his attempts to speak muffled by the glitter in his face. Consider it a little present, Hitoshi said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. I shook my head, grinning as I turned back to the villain. Now, let's wrap this up, shall we? With a swift motion, I slammed my fist into Chisaki's gut, knocking the wind out of him. His breath whooshed out in a sharp gasp, and he crumpled to the floor, knocked out cold. Aizawa glanced around the room, the tension easing as we secured the area. Reinforcements will be here soon. I straightened, brushing my hands off as if I had just finished a simple chore. Yeah, we're going to go now. And maybe we can stop for a snack on the way home, right? Hitoshi gave me a look, but didn't say anything. Aizawa shot me a glare that promised an infinite amount of pain if I pushed it any further, but he didn't say anything either. Fine, go, but next time I expect no little presents, Aizawa said, his tone sharp. No promises. I was snickering. We done it. And it was perfect. Camp was tomorrow, and I had one last patrol to get through before I had to pack up and leave everything in Shinso's hands. The thought alone made my stomach twist into knots. Don't get me wrong, Shinso's capable. He's sharp, observant, and his quirk can definitely hold its own. But this whole vigilante thing? The late nights, the sneaking around, and the taking justice into our own hands part? It's still new to him. And literally anything can happen. He needs backup. And the last thing I want is for something to go wrong while I'm away at camp, stuck pretending to be just another normal student. The idea of leaving him alone to handle all of this makes me want to scream. I hate it. He shouldn't have to bear this weight by himself. I've tried to convince myself I'm just being paranoid. I mean, it's probably nothing, right? But when have my instincts ever steered me wrong? Never. Never once. So, if my instincts are right, then we need someone else. Someone who's not tangled in the web of hero society's rules and regulations. Someone with fewer eyes watching their every move, someone sharp, crazy enough to dive into the deep end with us, and smart enough to survive it. Someone who's probably halfway to becoming a vigilante already, without realizing it. Only one name came to mind. Mei Hatsume. And Shinso? He's going to kill me for this. Mei Hatsume is the type of person your parents would warn you about. No, scratch that, they'd probably just flat out tell you to stay far away from her, and you'd ignore them because, honestly, how could you not? She's a living hazard in the best way possible. From the moment we met on the beach, things escalated quickly. She's been popping up everywhere ice cream runs, grabbing parts for her babies, and giving me unsolicited but totally helpful lessons in support core stuff. It's not like I ever thought I'd be learning how to not blow things up, but hey, I'm here for it. Thanks to her, I've actually improved my skills. She's made my life a whole lot less explosive, and honestly, I didn't even think that was possible. And then there's Shinso. I swear, he tries to act like he doesn't really like her, but I've caught him looking at her like she's the next great invention. It's cute, really. She's been helping him with his costume too, which is a whole other thing. She's a lot. But I guess that's why I'm not even surprised that I'm dragging her into this mess. And sure, she barely sleeps, and yeah, sometimes I have to play bodyguard while Shinso convinces her to finally go to sleep, but you know what? That's Mei. She's the best kind of crazy. And if anyone's prepared for this insanity, it's her. Probably more prepared than we are, to be honest. Later that day, let me get this straight, Mei said, pushing her goggles up onto her forehead like she was ready to fight a small army. One hand was on her hip, the other casually holding a welding torch like it was an extension of her arm. You're telling me that both of you are vigilantes? Not just Izuku here, who I can kinda see it being accurate, but you, too, Shinso? Yes, I said, trying my best to sound confident even though I was definitely sweating a little. Shinso, ever the voice of reason, and also the one who knows better than to ever make Mei angry, tried to salvage it. Well, not full-time. Shut up, brain boy, Mei said, cutting him off with a wave of her hand. I'm processing. I don't need your input. We both shut up. Immediately. That wasn't an order you argue with. She tapped the torch against her palm, her eyes narrowing as though she was mentally running through the implications. So, you've been running around at night, off the radar, fighting real bad guys, and not even recording any data for analysis? Are you both this stupid, or is it just Izuku? We have notes, I tried to offer weakly, feeling my face heat up. May stared at me like I'd suggested trying to fix a broken engine with nothing but duct tape. Izuku Midoriya, she said slowly, voice dripping with sarcasm. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And I once taught a cat how to rollerblade. I blinked at her. So that's not a no, then? She grinned, and it was not the kind of grin that reassured me. Oh, it's a hell yes. You two need me. Badly. Later rooftop, night patrol prep. All right, May said, tightening her tool belt around her waist like she was getting ready to fight in an action movie. Operation Kick Some Butt is a go. Where are we heading? Shinso groaned so loudly it almost sounded like he was auditioning for a role in a horror movie. Why did we tell her? Because she has a drone that can map quirk signatures, an EMP net in her backpack, and a pre-made costume, and she probably would have found us eventually anyway, I said, not bothering to hide my grin. Also, it's May. She would have followed us no matter what. Costume is below. May nodded proudly. Exactly. I'm unstoppable. Shinso rubbed his forehead like he was dealing with a headache of biblical proportions. Great, now I'm even more concerned. I shot him a look. You should be. May, completely unbothered by the fact that we were having a full-blown existential crisis, added, I've already made prototype upgrades to your scarf for your hero costume, Shinso. I added kinetic detection fibers and a noise-dampening mesh. I call it the stealth serpent. Shinso froze, his eyes narrowing as he processed the name. I refused to say that out loud. May raised an eyebrow at him. Then you don't deserve it. I grinned. You're not wrong. Shinso groaned in disbelief. This is a mistake. I slapped him on the back. Nah, it's perfect. What could possibly go wrong? We stood there for a moment, the cool night air pressing in around us. For the first time, I wasn't just thinking about the risk. I wasn't even worrying about the danger. This felt right. Maybe it was insane, maybe it was a little crazy, but we were in this together. And that made everything feel like it was worth it. We were a team now. And if the villains thought they had problems before, they were about to get a masterclass in Hatsume brand vigilante chaos. She doesn't have a cape, but she does have a bag for her inventions. Also has a mask and has hair sprayed purple. Her vigilante name is Cogs. By the time we reached the mountain, I'd counted 6 squirrels, 2 eagles, and 1 Class 1B student who probably hadn't brushed his teeth in 3 days. Stay focused, Izawa said from the front of the bus. Yeah, good luck with that. Everyone was buzzing like it was a school field trip. Ida was scolding Mineta again, Kaminari and Kirishima were trying to arm wrestle across the aisle, and Uraraka, well, she glanced at me, turned the color of a tomato, and proceeded to chant, camping, camping, nothing but camping, like a broken record. Still not sure if that's her coping mechanism or if she's lost her mind. I was mostly wondering how May and Shinso were doing. Probably working on some prototype together, grumbling about how I had to go off and play hero camp while they got to tinker and lurk in shadows. The bus finally stopped. We got out, stretched, and then the Wild Wild Pussycats made their dramatic entrance like a hero-themed musical act. Pixie Bob, bless her chaotic energy, immediately grabbed my face like it was a chew toy. We're young at heart. Ma'am, I've seen what happens to people who act like that in back alleys. But sure. Izawa pointed out the cabin. Far below us. Through a dense forest. And then, plot twist no, we would not be taking the bus down. Pixie Bob used her quirk to landslide us into the forest like we were contestants in Quirk Survivor, Death Edition. I landed on my feet, of course. Always do. Years of rooftop jumps and alley chases don't just vanish because I'm playing student today. But I made sure to stagger a little. Wouldn't want to seem too capable. And then came the dirt monsters. One tried to take a bite out of my netta, which is understandable. If I was a monster, he'd be the first one I'd kill. I jumped in and smashed it back, mentally apologizing to my nightly patrol wounds. Fake training during the day, real injuries at night. A perfect summer schedule. I stuck close to Todoroki, Ida, and Bakugo for the first couple of fights. Gotta keep up appearances. For how long though? We made short work of the first wave, and then it was just non-stop chaos. The class was pushing through well enough, but I noticed how Bakugo was going too hard, Todoroki was too careful, and Kaminari still hadn't figured out how not to fry himself. Note to self: organize nighttime stealth drills for these guys before they get killed in a real fight. Hours passed. Sweaty, tired, bruised but not really from the training. I was more tired of pretending to be exhausted than actually being exhausted. I wanted to climb a tree, scout the terrain, map the whole forest and set up traps like I would on a real patrol, but no. That's not what Izuku Midoriya, quirk nerd extraordinaire, would do. I'll do it tonight. We arrived at the lodge by sundown. Technically late, but I had already spotted 5 ways we could have reached it faster if we'd worked in small recon teams. But again, pretend. Pixie Bob practically sparkled at us. I'm pretty sure she was seconds away from giving me a head pat. Then we met Kota. Small kid. Spiky hat. Permanent scowl. Hey there. I tried. Low blow to the guts. I saw it coming but direct hit. I folded like a chair. Honestly, 10 points for form. I like this kid. Bakugo muttered beside me. I wheezed. Todoroki side-eyed them both. He's like a mini-you. Bakugo exploded verbally. I wheezed again, but this time in laughter. Aizawa cut it short, told us to grab our bags. Dinner was waiting. Finally, something I could appreciate. Except I didn't eat like the others. Couldn't. Had to keep everything measured. Training weight mattered. Also, I still had to go out tonight. Find a safe path. Patrol the woods, map the land, learn if we were being watched. Everyone else? Denki and Kirishima were practically bathing in curry and noodles. I half listened. As Pixie Bob said, this was our one nice meal. Great. So from here on out, it's boot camp. Afterward, we were sent to the hot springs. At least I had bought waterproof concealer. Although I should have skipped it. I really should have. Mineta tried to peek. Kota launched him off the wall like a cannonball. Then he turned. Saw everything. Collapsed backwards like a dropped puppet. I just managed to grab him before he could break something important. Carried him straight to Mandalay, who had that look the one adults use when they're about to explain something heavy but still pretend it's fine. I asked about Kota. Although I already had a pretty good idea. She told me about his parents. Dead heroes. Tragic. Bloody. Predictable. He didn't hate heroes, he hated the world that said dying like them was noble. I got that. Too well. Every night I asked the same thing. I wonder if they would call my death noble. They wouldn't. Not Izuku Midoriya. Not Air Zero R. Not the ghost in the alleys. Forgotten. That's probably what will happen if it does. I lay in bed that night and stared at the ceiling, ears tuned to the forest. No movement. No intruders. Just the slow breaths of classmates and the faint heartbeat of summer heat pressing in through the walls. Still, I didn't sleep. Because tomorrow, the real fight would begin. I had Shinso and Mei ready. And we are saving every one of these idiots. This was my first time patrolling without Izuku. This was my second time patrolling with Mei. This will hopefully be the last time I patrol with her. No, seriously, she's too much. She talks. Constantly. About gadgets, wires, modifications I didn't ask for, and things she calls anti-stealth upgrades, which is just code for giant glowing junk that makes noise. We were supposed to be patrolling a quiet industrial zone tonight, low villain activity, high smuggling potential. Izuku mapped it out last week. Mei volunteered to test a few surveillance bots in the field. What that actually meant was her stuffing 6 drone prototypes into my backpack and whisper shouting at me every 10 minutes like, "Mute, can I deploy the crawler one now? You know, the one with legs like a crab but also wings like a bat. Can it move silently?" Nope. No. She groaned so loudly I was sure a passing raccoon was going to call the cops. I don't know how Izuku handles her. I mean, yeah, she's a genius, scary good at tech, but I swear she treats field work like a playground. I had to duck behind a dumpster when her prototype scanner lit up like a disco ball. Mid-stealth. At one point I turned around and she was gone. Like a puff of smoke and insanity. Thought maybe she wandered into a gang hideout and started bartering with their security cameras. Found her on the roof of a warehouse, adjusting the scope on her mechanical arm like it was a date night. "You're welcome," she said. "I didn't say thank you. I saved you a trip." Camera in the alleys on a rotating loop gives us 12 seconds of blind time. Want me to loop it longer? No. That'll trigger a network alert. I already ghosted their system. She blinked at me, then grinned like I just handed her a blueprint of my brain. Okay, mute, I see you. I hated how proud I felt about that. Absolutely hated it. Still, for all the chaos, we made it through. Found the drop point Izuku flagged. Empty now, but still warm. Someone had been here in the last hour. Smelled like fuel, ozone, and whatever brand of aftershave villains think makes them edgy. I took photos. May took samples. And a selfie. With me in the background, scowling. By the time we got back to our safe house, she was half asleep, mumbling something about kinetic dampeners and, oh, maybe a mute brand grappling line. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't have a comeback, but because I was thinking about Izuku. Wondering what he was doing. Who he was pretending to be today. And how much longer he could keep carrying that mask alone. It wasn't long until we get a message. A mission to take down a villain named Mustard. This was the turning point for us vigilantes. Tonight we will disrupt the League's plans. The city's night air was cold but heavy, thick with the familiar haze of street lamps and smog, laced now with something sharp and chemical. Not the kind of smell you want to take a deep breath of. Perfect for a gas quirk showdown. May and I approached the abandoned gym like shadows, silent, watching. The building looked like it had been swallowed whole by the night, its cracked windows leaking faint orange light from flickering lanterns inside. The unmistakable smell of ammonia and something metallic prickled my nostrils. "Smells like Mustard's been busy," May muttered, her voice tight but amused. "You sure you want to do this without Air Zero R? I mean, you've got me here, but are you prepared?" I said nothing. My mask was on, sealed tight, gas-proof. Sure, but I knew better than to underestimate quirk toxins. Gas was sneaky. The smell could linger in your lungs even after you rip the mask off, and some toxins could seep through the pores. "Don't mess this up," I thought dryly as I adjusted my mask. The last thing I wanted was to be the idiot who trips and chokes on his own lungs in the middle of a fight. We slipped inside. Mustard was there, crouched among canisters and tubes, eyes darting between his gear and the faint glow of gas jets. His fingers danced over a valve, releasing a slow hiss of pale yellow mist into the air. I flicked a glance at May, who immediately signaled back, activating her own enhanced gas filters. "All right, gas boy," I said, voice low and calm. "Time to turn off the tap." Mustard didn't answer. Instead, he twisted another valve and a thick cloud of gas burst forth, filling the room with a sickly, greenish fog. My throat burned even through the mask's filters. The air grew heavy, and my vision blurred just slightly at the edges, a warning sign that this was no ordinary poison. May moved fast, tossing a flare drone that ignited in a fiery pop, lighting up the room in violent red and orange flashes. The gas twisted with the light, making it seem alive, swirling and writhing like a beast made of smoke. Mustard charged, using the chaos to cover his movement. I barely dodged his fist, the force sending a shockwave through the air. "You're going to have to do better than that," I muttered under my breath. He swung again, this time releasing another burst of gas mid-attack. May screamed a warning and threw a smoke grenade that exploded, creating a thick white barrier between us and Mustard. Masks only block so much, I thought grimly as my lungs burned anew. I reached out, activating my quirk, sending a sharp mental pulse aimed at disrupting his concentration, trying to short-circuit his attacks. He faltered, stumbling back just as May lunged, expertly tackling him to the ground. But Mustard wasn't done. He struggled, pressing a hidden button that released a powerful secondary gas, a hallucinogen designed to scramble minds. My vision doubled and I fought to steady myself. Don't judge me because I'm quiet. No one plans a murder out loud. "Mustard, you're really messing with the wrong people," I growled, forcing my quirk to surge again, this time targeting his motor functions. His body spasmed, then slackened. May quickly cuffed him, gasping, Seriously, that was one hell of a gas attack. I breathed heavily, the burn in my lungs reminding me I wasn't invincible. Not bad, I muttered, but not good enough. We dragged Mustard into a corner, where I focused my quirk to dig into his mind, searching for any info about the League's next moves. His resistance was tough, but not enough. He spat blood and secrets names, times, places while May kept a watchful eye, ready for anything. When we finally left him for the police, with a note. 1 U.S.J. Training camp is about to go wrong. Cogs and mute. I couldn't help but feel we were just getting started. The sky was bleeding orange across the treetops when Izuku found him. It was the end of the second day of camp and Kota sat at the edge of the cliff with his legs crossed and his hat tugged down low, like the brim could block out the whole world. He didn't turn when Izuku stepped up behind him. Didn't even flinch. He's already accepted whatever fate has planned for him, Izuku thought. Izuku sat down a careful distance away, letting silence stretch between them. The wind tugged lightly at his uniform collar. He didn't look at Kota, not yet. I used to dislike certain heroes too, he said quietly. That got a reaction. Kota stiffened, turning his head just enough to glare. You're right. You go to UA. Izuku chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Always the UA label. As if that makes you some kind of golden clone. If only they knew how wrong that was. I do. Now. Kota frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Izuku looked out across the trees, watching shadows stretch between the pines. Should I be doing this? Telling him? No turning back now. He needs to hear it. Someone does. If he tells a teacher, I'm done. If he panics, if he screams, if he runs, great, just what I need. A kid leading villains straight to camp. Fantastic. It means I wasn't always strong. I didn't always have a quirk. I know what it's like to feel helpless. To watch people pretend to help. But really just do it for attention. For glory. For the headlines. Although I guess at the time I was in my own delusions and it wasn't until a certain turning point that I came to this realization. Kota's eyes narrowed. He turned more fully toward him now. So what, you got a quirk and decided to be a fake hero like the rest? No, Izuku said, voice low. I decided I'd protect people my own way. Even if it meant breaking the rules. Kota blinked. Huh. Izuku glanced at him just enough to let the green in his eyes feel too sharp for a regular student. You ever hear about a vigilante called Air Zero R? Kota froze. The one who pranks heroes and beats up villains before the pros even get there? Yeah. Him. Izuku tilted his head. This is it. If he tells a teacher, I'm finished. If he screams, I'll have to disappear faster than Aizawa's patience during detention. If he bolts, well, then I'm just some guy talking to a tree. But if he listens? If he understands? Maybe there's hope. That's me. The wind howled between them, sudden and cold. Kota stared, mouth open slightly, like he wasn't sure if this was a joke or a test. You're lying. I'm not. You're a nerd. You mutter and take notes and I do all that at school, Izuku said. But at night? When no one's watching? He smiled, tired and crooked. I make sure people who don't have pro licenses still get protected. That's illegal. Yeah, Izuku said. It is. Illegal. Dangerous. Dumb. But hey, somebody's gotta do it. Otherwise, what's the point? Kota was quiet for a long time. Why are you telling me this? Izuku looked at him fully now, gaze steady. Because you hate heroes. And you deserve to know that not all of us are fakes. Some of us are trying to fix the system from the outside. From the cracks. The same cracks your parents slipped through. Kota's voice was small. My parents died trying to help people. I know. Izuku's voice cracked slightly. And I wish they hadn't. I wish the world hadn't made them feel like they had to be martyrs just to be good. But I'm not going to die a symbol. He paused. I'll live long enough to tear the system down and rebuild it right. I'll live long enough to make sure no kid like you ever gets left behind again. I'm going to live long enough to tear this whole broken system down. The pause. Then Kota, still stunned, muttered, You're a weirdo. Izuku huffed out a laugh. Yeah. I get that a lot. But beneath them deep in the forest something moved. Heavy. What? Like a heartbeat with too many limbs. Izuku's spine went stiff. His eyes flicked to the tree line. Kota. He's too close. No weapons on me. Great. Just my fists and 20% one for all, which might be a little underdressed for this party. I don't know how many others are out there. If the league is moving already. Kota, he said, standing. Go back to camp. Now. Why? Because something's coming, Izuku murmured, pulling his glove tighter over his scarred palm. His voice dropped into something colder. Sharper. Not a student anymore. A monster's coming. And I need to vanish before the teachers arrive. If they catch me fighting like this, well, survival comes first, consequences come second. A villain. A real one. Kota scrambled up. Wait. Go, Izuku said, looking back over his shoulder with a grin too sharp to be friendly. Let me show you what a vigilante can really do. The first roar cracked through the trees like a thunderclap. Izuku's head snapped toward the source. That wasn't a regular villain. Too loud. Too fast. Too eager. Expression shifting in a blink, it was time to fight for real. Kota needs to get away. I'll hold this guy off and drag him deeper if I have to. No weapons, no fancy gadgets, just me, my quirk, and a lot of luck. Kota had barely retreated 10 steps down the path when the trees exploded. Found ya, growled a voice like tearing gravel. Muscular emerged with bloodshot eyes and a grin too wide for his face, flexing cords of muscle from every limb like snakes writhing under his skin. You a camper? Or just another pest? Izuku didn't answer. He stood still, one foot sliding back into stance, hand loosening at his side. Bloodlust. Zero hesitation. Reinforced physique. That's no amateur. That's muscular. This is who killed Kota's parents. Too scared to run? Muscular sneered. Come on, kid, give me a workout. Izuku cracked his neck, the motion sharp and a little sarcastic. Workout? Sure, why not? Let's make this quick. I've got better things to do than babysit muscle-bound bullies. Sure, he said calmly. But I'm not the one who's going to sweat. Then he moved. He didn't attack head-on. He vanished into the shadows, a blur of green, rebounding off a tree trunk, then another, circling Muscular like a hawk. Too slow. Muscular bellowed, swinging wide. Izuku ducked low, skidding under the strike. Left swing, wide arc telegraphing every move. Idiot. His fingers twitched. No weapons, no gadgets. Just timing and precision. Your reaction time's delayed, Izuku muttered, now behind him. Tendon reinforcement. Slow twitch emphasis. All power, no control. He tossed a handful of dirt in Muscular's face, using the environment as his only tool, then disappeared again. From within the smoke and dust, Izuku's voice echoed, You rely on brute strength. You enjoy it. But you're predictable. A sharp punch slammed into the side of Muscular's ribs, precise, surgical. And you don't block. You never block. Another strike, this time to the back of the knee. Your muscle mass weighs you down. Overcompensation. A final strike to the jaw, crack. Followed by Izuku leaping into the trees above. Almost done. I just need to drop him before backup arrives. If Aizawa sees this, I'm dead. When the dust cleared, Muscular was panting, blood running from his nose. You think that's enough? I eat punks like you for breakfast. I'm not a punk, Izuku said from above. I'm just someone who is about to kick your butt. And he dropped. A full-force axe kick from the treetop, amplified with 20% one for all, crashed down on Muscular's shoulder with brutal precision. Boom. The villain cratered into the dirt, his entire upper body smashing through rock and tree root. His muscle fibers writhed, trying to regenerate. But Izuku was already there, hand glowing green with crackling energy. Don't get up. He slammed his palm into Muscular's temple. The force behind it was powerful. Precise. Controlled. Muscular went limp. Izuku stood over him, chest rising and falling. Not from exhaustion, just recalibration. The fight had taken barely 2 minutes. Kota saw. I can't erase that. But maybe that's the point. Maybe someone has to know. Kota peeked from the path, stunned. You destroyed him. Izuku didn't look back. I did what I had to do. Is he dead? No. Just out cold. No blood. I promised myself no blood. He finally turned, brushing dirt from his sleeves. Let's go. Others might be coming. Kota stared like he was looking at a legend. Midoriya? Izuku gave him a smile. Call me Izuku.